Chapter 504. What if she was really pregnant? Although this hospital was a private hospital, the Mu family would be able to find out if there were any medical records left in any medical center in the capital. What if she was really pregnant? In less than 2 days, the news would spread to the Mu family. He remembered that Mu Wanru and Mu Yaja had never had any physical contact. But now, there was news that she was pregnant. Mu Wanru had to kill him. Let's not bother about whether she was fertile or not for the time being. Even if she was really pregnant, the child in her stomach could not be saved. If the test was done and she was really pregnant, then, to a wealthy family, a premarital pregnancy, and the child was not even Mu Yaja's, was undoubtedly a huge scandal. Thinking about it carefully, it was not impossible for her to be pregnant. When he did it with her, it was probably because he knew that she was infertile. He was a little fearless, so he had never taken any safety measures. It was not impossible for her to be pregnant. Alan stood up and said, "I'll make a decision after I inform her family. Today, I'll send her home first." The doctor looked up blankly and said, "Oh." He felt that this man was really strange, but he did not think much about it. He only told him a few things to take note of and let him pay the registration fee. When Alan carried Mu Wanru to the car, Mu Wanru had already woken up. Seeing that she had woken up, Alan was nervous. "You're awake. Where is this?" Mu Wanru had a splitting headache. She rubbed between her eyebrows and looked out of the window. When she saw the hospital sign, she was stunned. "Why are you in the hospital? You fainted just now." "So, I was worried about you and sent you to the hospital." Alan was halfway through his words when he stopped abruptly and did not continue. He was still considering whether to tell her about this matter. Now that she was only pregnant, it was not confirmed if it was true. Mu Wanru did not know what he was thinking. She suddenly recalled what happened before she fainted. Thinking of Yun Shishir's horse accusations, her heart stopped for a few seconds. She bit the tip of her thumb uneasily and panicked. Did she find out? Did she remember what happened before? How much did she know? Did she only remember that she had stolen her jade pendant, or did she know what status this jade pendant represented? Damn it! Seeing her flustered expression, Alan recalled the doctor's words and finally decided to confess to her. "Wanru. What is it? Speak." She was distraught, so her tone was unkind. Ellen hesitated for a few seconds before asking slowly, "What exactly happened when you were found to be infertile?" He suddenly brought up this topic. Mu Wanru was startled for a moment, and then she felt a dull pain in her heart. She said with an unhappy expression, "Why are you suddenly asking this?" Her inability to conceive had always been the most unforgettable thing in her heart. If she could have children, perhaps she would have married Mu Yaja long ago. It was because she couldn't get pregnant that her position in the Mu family was unstable. Since ancient times, rich and powerful families had always relied on their sons to rise in status. If he didn't have children by his side, he wouldn't have any status. It was precisely because of this that she was unable to bear a child for Mu Yaja. Naturally, her position would not be stable. Chapter 505. Mu Wanru's heart was filled with grievances and heartache. She clenched her teeth and said with tears in her eyes, "If it wasn't for my infertility, maybe I would have married him long ago." "What do you mean? Tell me clearly." Alan was anxious and asked again. Mu Wanru recalled and said, 6 years ago, he and I were about to get engaged, but he said that he had to do a routine physical examination before the engagement. But in the end, the doctor told me that I was born infertile and could not have children. Grandpa thought of many ways and invited many doctors to treat me, but they all said that I had no hope of getting pregnant in my life. How could it be? Alan frowned in surprise. One side said that there was no problem with Mu Wanru's body, and the other side brought in authoritative experts, who were sure that she could not get pregnant at all. The two sides contradicted each other, and it was really puzzling. Whether she was pregnant or not, the general doctor could diagnose what the problem was. Infertility, on the other hand, was a profound mystery. Which side was the problem? How would I know? Mu Wanru said with tears in her eyes. Those authoritative experts were all sent by Mu Yaja from authoritative medical centers all over the country, and they were all authoritative professors. They all said so. What can I do? What can I do? I wanted to try, but he didn't give me a chance at all. He didn't even touch me. He really didn't touch you? Alan asked doubtfully. It's true. He really hates me. She laughed self-deprecatingly. There was one time when he was a little drunk. I helped him to the bed. Originally, I wanted to, but he pushed me away. I even doubted that he was a normal man. Even if I stood naked in front of him, he didn't have any reaction. He didn't want to touch me at all. He hated touching me. She put her chin on her knees and murmured, that's why I was so jealous of Yun Shishir and hated her so much. If I could give birth to a son or a daughter for the Mu family, would it be her turn to compete with me? A trace of suspicion appeared on Alan's face. He furrowed his brows, feeling that there was something fishy about this whole thing. Mu Wanru looked at him and said angrily, what's with your expression? Wanru, if I told you that you might be pregnant, would you believe me? Alan hesitated as he told her the things that were bothering him. From time to time, he would look at the changes in her expression. Mu Wanru was stunned for a long time, then suddenly sneered and said, have you had enough? Alan was stunned. I can't get pregnant at all, and I can't give birth. Is that enough? What do you mean by that? Do you want me to question the words of those authoritative experts? Alan said, but, I just sent you to the hospital. And then? She rolled her eyes disapprovingly. The doctor said that you have some signs of pregnancy. He asked me to do an HCG test for you. Mu Wanru was stunned for a moment. In a daze, she mumbled, how is that possible? It's impossible for me to get pregnant. Wanru, think about it carefully. Are you sure you're infertile? You can't believe the words of those experts completely. No one knows your body better than you, right? Chapter 506. Think about it again. We've done it so many times, but we've never taken any safety measures. Do you think it's a coincidence that you're showing signs of pregnancy at this time? Do you have any signs of early pregnancy in the past 2 days? I saw you retching a little before. Is that a symptom of morning sickness? Every word that he said was very convincing, and there was indeed some truth to it. Mu Wanru fell silent. Indeed, she and Alan had done it so many times. Perhaps it was because she knew that she was infertile and couldn't get pregnant, so Mu Wanru didn't take it to heart and didn't take any safety measures. Similarly, Alan didn't take any protection measures. But thinking about it carefully, there was indeed something wrong with the past few days. Every morning before breakfast, she would feel nauseous. At first, the symptoms weren't serious. She endured it and didn't think too much about it. Over the past few days, the dizziness and weakness had become more and more serious. She had no appetite and always felt inexplicably tired. She just blamed it on the nightmares and lack of sleep. Because of that incident, she had been feeling uneasy for the past few days. She had even neglected one thing. Her period had indeed been delayed for a long time and hadn't come for a long time. Her physical fitness was good. Every time her period came, it would come on time. At most, there would only be a deviation of 2 or 3 days. But now, it had been delayed for more than a week. This was already very abnormal for her. At first, she didn't realize it and only thought that it was normal for her to not sleep well. Now that she thought about it carefully, she couldn't help but be shocked. Mu Wanru's face suddenly turned ugly. She lowered her head in disbelief and covered her lower abdomen with her hands. Her palms were gently pressed against her abdomen, and her eyes were full of disbelief. She was pregnant. At the thought of this possibility, her heart was suddenly filled with mixed feelings. She didn't know whether to be happy or worried. What did this mean? Was he joking with her? Wasn't she born infertile? Those experts said with certainty that she would never be able to get pregnant or have children in her life. Then why did she have the reaction of early pregnancy now? Although she had no experience in pregnancy, after Alan's reminder, she did notice a series of strange reactions in her body over the past few days. It was very similar to the symptoms of pregnancy. Was she really pregnant? In other words, she wasn't infertile. She still had a chance to get pregnant and give birth to a child for the Mu family. When Mu Wanru thought of this, and thought that she might be able to have a child with Mu Yaja, a child that belonged to them, her own child, her heart was filled with great joy. She trembled as she covered her face. Her eyes were filled with tears of agitation, and her throat felt tight. Mu Wanru widened her eyes in surprise. She suddenly got up slightly, grabbed Ellen's collar, and said ecstatically, "You said I might be pregnant? In other words, I still have a chance to get pregnant." Ellen stared at her face, which was twisted and ferocious because of her surprise. For a moment, her heart was filled with great sorrow, joy, and worry. On one hand, his heart ached. His heart ached that she might finally be able to fulfill her dream of being a mother. Now, the child in her stomach was his. Vaguely, he felt a sense of responsibility as a father. Chapter 507. What was he? Had it been his wishful thinking all this while? Or could it be that the woman he loved was just using him from the beginning to the end? Seeing his dazed expression, Mu Wanru's smile froze. She asked, "Alan, aren't you happy for me?" Alan raised his eyes and stared at her, but he didn't say a word. Mu Wanru held her abdomen as her lips curled into a radiant smile. "I can get pregnant. I'm not infertile. I can give birth to a child for Mu Yaja. This child might even be the future heir of the Mu group. Isn't this something to be happy about?" Wanru, Alan's eyes were a little obscure. He gently lowered his eyes and held her shoulders tightly. The corner of his lips curled up into a bitter arc. "First of all, I'm sincerely happy for you that you can get pregnant." Mu Wanru smiled. Her gaze was so soft that it seemed like water was about to drip out. Ellen's next sentence stunned her as if she had been struck by lightning. "But haven't you thought about it? Whose child is the father of the child in your stomach?" "Wanru, that's our child, not yours and Mu Yaja's." "Wanru, will you give birth to him?" Mu Wanru's body stiffened like a rock. She was stunned. Seeing her frozen expression, Alan's heart ached. A hint of sadness flashed across his eyes. He leaned over and sat beside Mu Wanru. He pulled her into his arms and said gently, "Wanru, you might be pregnant. If you're really pregnant, then this child is our child. I'm willing to acknowledge him and take responsibility for you. Deep down, I don't want to abort him. What about you? Are you willing to give birth to him?" Mu Wanru's gaze changed. She clenched her fists subconsciously, and a cold glint flashed in her eyes. He wanted her to give birth to this child. How was that possible? Yes, how could she forget? She was pregnant, but whose child was the father of the child in her stomach? It wasn't Mu Yaja's, but Alan's. This was the product of infidelity, a vile spawn. How could she have given birth to him? If the Mu Yaja knew that she was pregnant and the child was not his, with Mu Yaja's methods, he would definitely wipe them out personally. By then, so what if Grandpa Mu dotes on her? In a wealthy family, it was taboo for a woman to be unfaithful to her husband. This was undoubtedly a huge scandal. If the Mu family knew about this, they would never let her off. Thinking of this, Mu Wanru's originally joyful expression receded like the tide, and suddenly became as pale as a sheet of paper, her forehead oozing with fear and cold sweat. "We can't keep this child, why?" Alan's eyes widened in shock. He pulled her body tightly and forced her to face him. He asked bitterly, "This child is your flesh and blood. It's your first child. How can you be so cruel? What can I do? What can I do?" Mu Wanru clutched his chest tightly and retorted with a pale face. "Keep him here. Keep this vile spawn. Alan, this is infidelity. This child is the product of infidelity. Don't forget, I'm Mu Yaja's fiancée, the future young mistress of the Mu family. I'm going to be young Madam Mu. How can I keep your child? Are you dreaming? Chapter 508. What's incestuous? What's a vile spawn? That's your child. How can you be so heartless as to call him a vile spawn? Alan gripped her shoulders tightly, his eyes bloodshot and staring straight ahead. Mu Wanru was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, she sneered and asked, Alan, don't tell me you're really in love with me. Alan was stunned and looked at her in disbelief. Mu Wanru continued, don't tell me you're really in love with me. Alan, we're just fooling around. It's better if you don't get too involved. To you, I'm just a physical need, so. Although she was a woman, sometimes she had physical needs too. Mu Yaja never touched her. As for Alan, she only had such thoughts at most. A man and a woman just took what they needed. Feelings? Who would talk about feelings with him? Enough. Alan could not take it anymore and interrupted her. Mu Wanru, how can you be so cruel? Yes, I'm in love with you. Mu Wanru, I'm in love with you. Alan raised his eyes and stared deeply at her. He said word by word, you've been lingering in my heart since university. I joined Dishing Financial Group because of you. Besides, don't you know whether I'm in love with you or not? You should know best. Also, you're using my feelings, but so what? I love you, so even if I have to sacrifice my life for you, I won't hesitate to do it. Mu Wanru was stunned. So, he could tell that she was using him. Was he an idiot? Now, can you understand my sincerity? Alan smiled sadly. Wanru, I love you. When I first found out that you might be pregnant, I was so happy that I almost went crazy. If you're willing to keep our child, I can take you away. No matter where you are, I'll protect you and not let you suffer. I'll do my best to give you the happiest life. Are you willing to go far away with me? Mu Wanru was stunned for a moment before she shook her head. Are you kidding? Alan's face fell into an ice cellar. How can I keep this child? You're selfish. I won't go with you. Mu Wanru pushed him away harshly and raised her head arrogantly. She sneered. I want to abort this child. From now on, let's break it off. Let's stop talking. I'll still be the young madam of the Mu family, and you'll be my fiancé's assistant. Let's stop talking. What? You know that you can get pregnant, so you're going to kick me away. Ellen smiled miserably, but he saw through her ruthlessness, and a bone-chilling chill arose in his heart. What do you mean by that? Mu Wanru glared at him fiercely. Shouldn't I be the one asking you this question? Alan's heart was filled with pain and disappointment. What's so good about being the young mistress of the Mu family? Can Mu Yaja give you happiness? Can he guarantee that you'll be the only one in his life? Stop dreaming. How do you know that he can't give me happiness? He'll be a good husband. He's different from you. He's a responsible man. He's the man that I, Mu Wanru, have taken a fancy to. Mu Wanru continued, as long as I let him know that I'm not infertile and can bear children for him, he won't be so cold to me. Chapter 509. You're the one who's dreaming. Alan said mercilessly. He only has Yun Shishir in his heart. He doesn't touch you because he already has another woman in his heart. That's why he's not interested in you at all. Shut up. Mu Wanru interrupted him with a ferocious look. He's just playing with Yun Shishir. He's a man after all. Don't I know him well? As for Yun Shishir, he's only interested in her for a while. After this heat, his feelings for her will fade, so he'll just abandon her. Do you think that an unorthodox woman like Yun Shishir can replace me? Alan smiled coldly and reminded her, have you forgotten? Do I need to remind you? Who exactly is the young madam of the Mu family? Everything you have now was snatched from Yun Shishir. Shut up. Mu Wanru shrieked and raised her hand to slap him. Slap. A ruthless slap landed on Alan's face. Alan did not stop there. If you hadn't snatched her jade pendant back then, old Master Mu would have brought her back to the Mu family by accident. The person by Mu Yaja's side now should be Yun Shishir, not you. Mu Wanru, haven't you realized the truth until now? Mu Yaja doesn't belong to you. You can't force things that don't belong to you. Shut up. Shut up, shut up. Mu Wanru covered her ears like a madwoman. When she saw that Alan did not intend to stop there, she raised her hand again, but Alan reached out and held it tightly. Wanru, even if you want to get rid of this child, tell me. How do you plan to hide it from the Mu family? How do you plan to get rid of this child without anyone knowing? Alan smiled, revealing his white teeth. Don't forget that the Mu family has spies in all the medical centers in the big capital. You should know how powerful the Mu family is, right? Or do you plan to go to a small clinic to get rid of it secretly? Mu Wanru was stunned for a while upon hearing this. How could she not know? All the medical centers in the capital were inextricably linked to the Mu family. Even if she escaped from the capital, it might not be too risky. Right now, only a small clinic could hide it from the public. Mu Wanru said, as long as I can get rid of this child, so what if it's a small clinic? Do you have the heart to degrade yourself? Alan was completely enraged. This is our child, a life. All right. Then I'll stay. Mu Wanru paused. Before Aaron could reveal a gratified smile, she coldly said, as the Mu family's descendant. What do you mean? Alan asked in shock and anger. You're too naive. Whether or not it's his child, do you think you can hide it from him forever? Alan could not help but mock her naivety. This has nothing to do with you. Mu Wanru said coldly, anyway, I can't go far away with you. Do you think everything will be fine if I just leave with you? Do you think the Mu family will let us go? Who's the naive one here? Chapter 5:10. That's enough. I don't want to hear your nonsense. You'd better keep your mouth shut about this matter before I come up with a compromise. I don't want anyone to know that I'm pregnant. We're still in the same boat now, so don't you dare play any tricks. Aaron smiled bitterly but did not say anything in the end. He got into the car expressionlessly. Mu Wanru sat in the car. Along the way, she lowered her head to look at her flat stomach. A complicated look flashed across her eyes. The Bentley slowly drove into the car park of Liji Holdings. Li Hanlin alighted from the car, walked to the back seat, and opened the door. Yun Tianyu alighted from the car, and Li Hanlin bent down slightly to carry him. He raised his head to look at the tall building in the center of Liji Holdings and asked in a low voice, have you investigated that woman's matter? Yes, I have. Let's go in. Li Hanlin nodded and carried Yun Tianyu into Liji Holdings. Along the way, the employees threw them surprised looks from time to time. A passing secretary saw Li Hanlin carrying a delicate-looking little lad and was surprised to see him. She asked in surprise, Agent Li, you're here. Ah, this child is so adorable. Who is he to you? Yun Tianyu frowned unhappily and said lightly, you still have the mood to chat during work hours? Li Hanlin immediately reprimanded, get back to work, don't talk so much. Startled, the secretary quickly lowered her head and returned to her seat. He was a little surprised in his heart. This cute and immature child still had the air of a baby. Why was the moment he opened his mouth so imposing? He was so mature that he did not seem like a child at all. Li Hanlin carried Yu into the office and placed him on the office chair. Yun Tianyu leaned back gracefully and leisurely looked at the furnishings in the office. In a sense, this was the first time he stepped into Liji Holdings headquarters since he held 60% of the company's shares. Li Hanlin brewed a cup of Ceylon black tea for him and then passed a thick stack of documents to him. Is everything here? Yes. Everything is here. Yun Tianyu took a sip of the black tea and then lowered his head to carefully read the information. He skimmed through it 10 lines at a glance. Suddenly, his brows slowly furrowed. According to the information, Mu Wanru's biological mother was a masseuse in a bar. She had a low status, and after giving birth to Mu Wanru, she abandoned her at the entrance of the hospital. After that, she was picked up by a couple. Until a car accident, she lost both her parents and was sent to the orphanage. When she was 9 years old, she was adopted by the Mu family and brought back. The information about the private welfare institute was also listed out in detail. Yun Tianyu flipped through a few pages, and his eyes suddenly widened in shock. Li Hanlin saw that his face was a little ugly, and his eyes fell on the information. According to the information, the director of the orphanage was sentenced to prison for child molestation 3 years ago. The list of victims included dozens of orphans in the orphanage, including young boys. The director of the orphanage was called Luo Hanjin, 50 years old. This incident had once caused a huge uproar in the city, and everyone knew about it. Most of the victims were young orphans who were still ignorant. The youngest among them was only 6 years old. Chapter 5:11. The police took this case very seriously and immediately launched an investigation after receiving the girl's confession. After a thorough investigation, Luo Hanjin was arrested. After his arrest, he denied all charges of child molestation, which led to strong protests from charity organizations. In the end, the charity organizations intervened and all the children in the orphanage were examined. The results showed that dozens of children had varying degrees of bruises on their bodies, and a few of them were infected with STDs. Finally, with conclusive evidence, Luo Hanjin was prosecuted and confessed to child molestation. At first, he tried to use his connections to suppress the matter, but unfortunately, this matter caused a strong social reaction and caused public outrage. Due to the serious nature of the case, which involved the rape of a child, the court sentenced him to life imprisonment. What a beast, Li Hanlin shook his head. Yun Tianyu frowned slightly. I remember that mommy was adopted by Yun Yecheng from this orphanage. Hearing this, Li Hanlin's face turned solemn. Director Yun, are you worried that? Yun Tianyu clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His face was extremely ugly. I want to see him. Li Hanlin said, Luo Hanjin should still be serving his sentence in prison, but if you want to see him, I can arrange it. Arrange it immediately. Okay. Li Hanlin took out his phone and walked to the side. Yun Tianyu continued reading with a serious expression. At the end of the information was a list and photos of all the orphans adopted since the orphanage's opening. His eyes swept through the information and landed on one of the photos. In the photo, a beautiful girl with delicate features was looking expressionlessly at the camera. Her face was expressionless, and her eyes were empty and numb, as if there was a pool of dead water between her brows. Her jet black hair set off her extremely thin cheeks. She seemed to be suffering from long-term nutritional imbalance. Her face was pale and dull. Her clothes looked very shabby. Was this mommy when she was young? How could she be so thin? Yun Tianyu frowned with heartache. His slender fingers slowly caressed the photo, and his heart ached as if it were being pricked by needles. Mommy, Li Hanlin hung up the phone and walked over, only to see Yun Tianyu staring at a photo in a daze. Following his line of sight, Li Hanlin saw a photo of Yun Shishir taken at the welfare center when she was 9 years old and suddenly recalled something. When I went to the orphanage today, I learned some news. Speak. The staff at the orphanage mentioned that 15 years ago, a girl was ostracized by the teachers and children at the orphanage because of stealing. She even contracted depression because of that. Depression? Yes. Because of her depression, she once tried to go on a hunger strike. Later, she was sent to the hospital and received treatment for half a year. Because of this, when the girl was adopted, the family that adopted her donated a considerable amount of money to the Welfare Institute. This is the girl. His eyes turned cold as he slowly raised his head. Depression? Suicide? It's that serious? Yes, it's serious. Li Hanlin lowered his head and looked at the photo again. Suddenly, he felt that it looked familiar. Chapter 5:12. Thief. Thief, shameless thief. It's all because of you that Xiao left in a fit of anger. Why are you such a lowly thief? I'm not a thief, I'm really not a thief. In her sleep, Yun Shusher clutched the blanket tightly as sweat broke out on her forehead. The lights in the room suddenly turned on. Qin Zhou pushed the door open and walked in. He had knocked on the door for a long time, but no one answered. He was worried about her, so he entered the room. At this moment, the sky outside the window had darkened. The night breeze blew in through the window, causing the curtains to flutter. He immediately walked over and closed the window. The slight movement woke up the person who was sleeping on the bed with a start. Yun Shusher opened her eyes. In her hazy vision, there was a ceiling. Then, she saw Qin Zhou's smiling handsome face. Darling, you're awake. Yun Shusher felt a slight headache. She fell asleep in a daze, but the nightmares kept on waking her up. She slowly sat up on the bed. Qin Zhou immediately picked up a cushion and placed it behind her back. When he touched her shoulder, his fingertips were scalded by her skin. His expression was slightly startled as he immediately placed his hand on her forehead and said in surprise, "You have a slight fever." Yun Shusher opened her eyes in a daze. She was not fully awake yet, so her reaction was a little slow. Qin Zhou sighed and immediately rummaged through the cupboard to get the medicine box. He sat by her bed and took out a thermometer for her to put in her mouth. Yun Shusher did as she was told. A minute later, Qin Zhou took out the thermometer and looked at it. It was 38 degrees. She had a fever. I guess the windows were open when you fell asleep. The apartment is like this. At night, the wind is especially cold. I'm afraid you've caught a cold. It's all my fault. Qin Zhou was annoyed. He poured some warm water and urged her to take the medicine. Thank you. Why are you being so polite? Qin Zhou joked. Sure, you're lucky. Where else can you find such a gentle manager like me? Yun Shusher was amused by his narcissistic tone. Yes. I'm lucky to have a manager like you to take care of me. I must have done a lot of good deeds in my previous life. Of course. Qin Zhou felt a little smug from her praise, and the two of them jokingly chatted for a while. Qin Zhou suddenly smiled and asked, "Have you calmed down now?" Yun Shusher nodded slowly. Then tell me, what exactly happened at noon? Qin Zhou's usual frivolous face was gone. It was rare for him to care about someone so seriously. Yun Shusher was silent for a long time. Her gaze suddenly drifted away along with her thoughts. However, Qin Zhou was very patient and did not disturb her. After a long time, Yun Shusher slowly said, "These are all things of the past. I don't know if I should tell you." She had originally chosen to forget those memories, but today, after the argument with Mu Wanru, those unbearable memories seemed to have broken out of their cage. If you're willing to tell me, then I'm willing to listen. If you're not willing, then I won't force you. However, I want you to know that even though I'm your manager in name, in my heart, I treat you like family. In the future, we'll be in the same boat and share weal and woe. So, you don't have to treat me like an outsider. Qin Zhou's expression was serious, and his words were sincere. Yun Shusher nodded and told him about the grievances between her and Mu Wanru. Chapter 513. Does this mean that Mu Wanru is the girl who stole your jade pendant 15 years ago? Qin Zhou questioned. Yun Shusher nodded, her eyes dark. I heard that Mu Wanru was adopted by the Mu family 15 years ago. It said that Grandpa Mu had an adopted daughter whom he doted on very much. Her name is Mu Qingcheng. Although she's not of the Mu family's blood, Grandpa Mu treated her as his own and treated her as the apple of his eye. However, more than 20 years ago, Mu Qingcheng got pregnant out of wedlock. To cover up this scandal, Grandpa Mu ordered her to abort the child. Later, Mu Qingcheng went missing. In order to find his beloved adopted daughter, Grandpa Mu turned the entire capital upside down, but he still could not find her. Even so, there was still a clue, and he did not give up. Later, I heard that. Qin Zhou's voice suddenly sank. Mu Qingqing was found, but she's dead. Yun Shishir's heart skipped a beat. Dead? Yes. She died in a car accident. It was too horrible to look at. Qin Zhou shook his head helplessly. Grandpa Mu was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Later, he started looking for Mu Qingqing's 2 children. Mu Qingqing. Yun Shishir said in a daze. I only know that my mother's surname is Qin and her name is Cheng. Didn't your mother mention your family background to you? He asked in confusion. No. Yun Shishir shook her head. My mother has been very tight-lipped about my family background. She only told me that there's a Mu family in the capital, and that there's someone called Mu Xing who's the cruelest executioner in the world. She told me not to step into their house no matter what. Mu Xing. Qin Zhou suddenly stood up agitatedly and said solemnly, there's only one Mu family in the capital, and the head of that family is Mu Xing. Don't tell me that your mother is Mu Qingqing. Yun Shishir suddenly fell silent. Qin Zhou continued, could it be that Mu Wanru stole your jade pendant, and that jade pendant is your mother's personal keepsake? Grandpa Mu recognized the keepsake and took Mu Wanru back to the Mu family as your mother's child? Probably, yes. So, you're the real daughter of the Mu family. Mu Yaja's real fiancé. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows slightly, feeling that life was truly a fantasy. All this time, the real daughter of the Mu family had been a fake. However, the real princess ended up in the human world by accident. This was too dramatic. It could be made into a TV series. I won't go back to the Mu family. I just want her to return the jade pendant to its rightful owner. Yun Shishir looked up and said, that was the last thing my mother left me. Because of that woman's selfishness, I was at the mercy of others in the orphanage you're talking about. I think I have some impression of it. Qin Zhou carefully recalled and suddenly slapped his forehead. Is the director of that orphanage called Luo Hanjin? Yun Shishir's face froze when she heard that. Her face turned as white as a sheet in an instant. She never knew the name of the director of the orphanage, but in her heart, that man was undoubtedly a devil. A terrifying demon who should go to hell. Chapter 5:14. Wasn't Luo Hanjin exposed in a scandal a few years ago? He was accused of molesting children and raping young girls. It was a big deal, and many children in the orphanage were found to have been violated to different degrees. That orphanage was privately owned. It claimed to be a social orphanage, but in private, it secretly sold those beautiful young girls to rich people to raise skinny horses. What do you mean? Yun Shishir came back to her senses and was a little puzzled by his words. Raise skinny horses? What did that mean? Qin Zhou's expression changed. Don't you know what it means to raise skinny horses? I don't quite understand. Skinny horses. It has nothing to do with horses. I think it's not that you don't quite understand, you don't understand at all. Ha, innocent girl. Qin Zhou's lips curled up and he smiled. Have you heard of Yangzhou's skinny horses? Yun Shishir shook her head in confusion. Qin Zhou explained to her, in the entertainment industry now, many popular groups may look glamorous on the surface, but in fact, they have rich people behind them. For example, the popular Sweet Girls is actually a skinny horse raised by a record company. Many rich people like to raise skinny horses, and this is a popular trend in high society. What does it mean to raise skinny horses? Yun Shishir was a little confused. It starts from ancient times. In the Jiangnan area, there were many young girls who were specially trained to be married to rich people as concubines. Most of these girls were beautiful because they were thin, so they were called skinny horses. In the Ming and Qing dynasties, skinny horses had become a lucrative investment, and a large number of people engaged in this business. Qin Zhou paused, glanced at Yun Shishir, and continued to explain, these people specially selected young girls from poor families from all over the country. These young girls were like goods that were picked and selected. Those who were good-looking, cultivated talents, were proficient in the 4 books and 5 classics, and were good at everything. In the end, they were sold to rich people at high prices as concubines. But not all skinny horses were lucky enough to marry rich people. In the end, the remaining skinny horses were sent to the brothels. Most of the prostitutes by the Qinhuai River were skinny horses. When Yun Shushu heard this, she was skeptical. There was actually such a thing. Seeing the look of disbelief on her face, Qin Zhou smiled and said, that private orphanage used the name of the orphanage to adopt those orphans. They secretly picked out those who looked delicate and pretty, and some of them were given to rich families. These girls were all clearly priced. Yun Shushu frowned. It turned out that there was so much darkness in the world that she didn't know about. His heart was filled with terror. Her dark childhood in the welfare home had taught her about Luo Hanjin's despicable and shameless ways. However, Yun Yecheng's appearance had brought her away from this abyss of suffering. For this, she was truly grateful to him. If not for Yun Yecheng, she really did not know what would have happened to her. While she was lost in her thoughts, Qin Zhou had already brought the cooked porridge over. After setting up the table on the bed for her, he placed the porridge and side dishes in front of her and said with a smile, "You must be hungry, hee. Come and try the porridge that Lord Qin Zhou specially cooked for you. Let's see how good it is." Yun Shushu asked in surprise, "You cooked it for me? What else could it be? I saw that you didn't eat lunch and slept the whole afternoon. You should be hungry when you wake up." Chapter 5:15. You should be thanking me. He crossed his arms. Look, I'm not just your manager, I'm also your nanny. I've never been so considerate to anyone before. He sat by the bed and suddenly said seriously, Shushu, some things are in the past, so don't dwell on them. When there's pain, you should let go of it and not hold on to it. I've always believed in karma. This person, without saying a word, without doing anything, it was all part of his karma. If one sows good karma, one will bear good karma. Sows evil, reap evil. That Mu Wanru has evil intentions, she'll suffer the consequences sooner or later. Yun Shushu thought that his words made sense. Qin Zhou, do you believe in Buddhism? I don't believe in Buddhism, but I believe in karma. He propped his chin with one hand and said, good and evil will be repaid. Every dog has its day. Some people do evil, and no matter how late the retribution is, it will eventually befall them. On the long corridor in the prison, the sound of chains dragging on the floor was ear-piercing. A middle-aged man with white hair was walking slowly. The prison guard mercilessly kicked him. Walk faster. The prison door slowly opened. In the interrogation room, Yun Tianyu sat on a chair with Li Hanlin standing beside him. When the man was dragged into the interrogation room by the prison guard, he saw a delicate-looking little lad sitting on a chair like an elegant and cute little gentleman. However, the expression on the child's handsome and tender face was extremely cold. Luo Hanjin was pushed to the interrogation chair with his hands cuffed. Li Hanlin exchanged glances with the prison guard. The latter immediately understood and left respectfully. He felt extremely strange. After serving his sentence for so many years, he was summoned today for no reason to meet a 7-year-old child. Was he seeing a ghost? He looked warily at Li Hanlin, who was beside Yun Tianyu, and asked, "Who are you?" Li Hanlin looked at him expressionlessly and did not speak. The little lad beside him casually said, "You don't need to know who we are. Luo Hanjin, I'm here to ask you a few things, and you'd better answer me honestly. If you hide anything from me, don't blame me for being rude." "Who are you?" "You're just a little kid, and you're talking big." Luo Hanjin's face showed a displeased look. Obviously, he didn't put this kid in his eyes. He had once been in the limelight. Even though he was now at the end of his rope, the limelight had passed, and his sentence had been reduced again and again. His original life sentence had been reduced to 10 years, and it was only a matter of time before he would be released. Hence, he did not think much of Yun Tianyu. His rude words made Li Hanlin extremely unhappy as he coldly rebuked, Luo Hanjin, don't think that everything is fine just because you're about to be released from prison. Do you believe that I will let you stay in prison for a few more years? Ha! You still haven't told me who you are. Do you think I'm a pushover? Why would any Tom, Dick, or Harry come here to show off? Luo Hanjin smiled disdainfully. His face was sloppy and uncooperative. Yun Tianyu smiled sinisterly, his beautiful eyes brimming with coldness. It seems that you won't know the immensity of heaven and earth if I don't teach you a lesson. What do you mean? Luo Hanjin stared at him suspiciously, only to see Li Hanlin walk to the door and clap his hands. After a while, 2 prison guards walked in with batons in their hands. Chapter 5:16. Luo Hanjin stared at him suspiciously, only to see Li Hanlin walk to the door and clap his hands. After a while, 2 prison guards walked in with batons in their hands. A baton hit his head, causing him to feel dizzy from the pain. Li Hanlin ordered, the prisoner is not cooperating. Do something. What do you mean? What are you trying to do? Luo Hanjin screamed, but the chair was suddenly turned upside down. Immediately after, the prison guard covered his face with a towel and slowly poured a bucket of water over him. Waterboarding was one of the cruelest forms of torture. As the towel gradually became soaked, water continuously flowed in. Due to the suction force of the towel, Luo Hanjin's nose, mouth, and teeth were all firmly stuck, making it impossible for him to breathe. Suffocation overwhelmed him like a mountain. He struggled violently, but his hands and feet were cuffed, so he could not move at all. The sound of the chains clanging against each other was crisp and clear. Yun Tianyu leisurely picked up his teacup, took a sip, and raised his head to signal the prison guard. Li Hanlin immediately waved his hand, and the prison guard hurriedly took the towel away. Luo Hanjin's eyes widened in anger as he breathed in the fresh air rapidly. His expression was twisted and hideous as if he had just come back from the dead. Are you awake now? Yun Tianyu put down his teacup and asked. The prison guard hit him on the shoulder with a baton. Are you awake now? I'm asking you a question. I'm awake now. Luo Hanjin asked in horror. Brother, who are these 2? Who's your brother? The prison guard angrily slapped him. Just tell us what we're asking you. Be honest, or else you'll have to bear the consequences. Yes. Yes, I understand. Luo Hanjin obediently nodded his head and looked at Yun Tianyu with a look of awe and respect. You'd better know your place. After saying that, the prison guard turned to look at Li Hanlin obsequiously. With a look from the latter, they obediently retreated. Wouldn't you have suffered less if you had been obedient earlier? You should know what crime you committed, right? Yun Tianyu asked unhurriedly before continuing, you should know what crime you committed, right? I know. Perhaps Luo Hanjin had suffered a lot in prison, so he had learned to be obedient when the prison guard came forward. Towards this child in front of him, although he felt that it was somewhat inconceivable for a child to have such a strong and evil aura, but from the bottom of his heart, he was in awe. I'm here to ask you about the 2 of you. Tell me everything you know. As Yun Tianyu spoke, he took out 2 photos and had Li Hanlin present them to him. Luo Hanjin glanced at the photo, still in shock. There were 2 girls in the photo, but when he looked at one of them, he suddenly remembered. Xiaorou? Luo Hanjin looked up at Li Hanlin in confusion. What's wrong with her? Do you still remember who adopted her? I remember. The Mu family in the capital. It was old Master Mu who personally came to take them away. Luo Hanjin answered. Why did Grandpa Mu adopt her? That's because she seems to have a jade pendant on her, like a personal keepsake. Grandpa Mu also has an identical jade pendant on him. When the 2 pieces of jade are put together, they are a pair. Luo Hanjin recalled for a while. I remember Grandpa Mu saying that this girl is his long-lost relative. You're sure just from a piece of jade? Li Hanlin was skeptical. Chapter 5:17. Jade pendant? Yun Tianyo's gaze deepened. Yes. That jade pendant, when pieced together, forms a jade pendant. I heard that it's an heirloom of the Mu family, passed down from generation to generation. That was all he knew. Yun Tianyu was deep in thought. His fingertips tapped on the table absent-mindedly as if he were plotting something. Speaking of this jade pendant, I thought of something. Go ahead. At that time, many teachers at the orphanage said that this jade pendant was not hers and was taken from another child. It's not hers. Li Hanlin was surprised. Yes. The orphanage has a record of the children it takes in, and some of their personal belongings are also registered. Ruru is an orphan, so she didn't have this jade pendant with her when she entered the orphanage. The nurses and teachers of the orphanage were well aware of this. I only found out about it later. Luo Hanjin said. That means that the Mu family mistook her for someone else. Luo Hanjin nodded resentfully. You can say that. Yun Tianyu raised his eyes and said faintly, that is to say, this girl stole someone else's jade pendant, replaced that child's identity, and was adopted by the Mu family? Yes. That's all I know. He did not know why, but whenever Yun Tianyu opened his mouth, his heart would tremble. This child was still so young. His aura was so strong that it was frightening. Even a casual and emotionless sentence made him feel fear from the bottom of his heart. Since you knew, why didn't you say anything? I didn't know about it at that time either. Luo Hanjin hurriedly explained, Ruru, this girl, is very doted on in the orphanage. The teachers and children all like her. Even if she really stole this jade pendant, no one would believe it, right? The teachers are also protective of her, so they definitely won't expose her. Is this child also your pet? Li Hanlin was suddenly curious. I heard that you have this kind of fetish. It's very unique. This. Luo Hanjin smiled sheepishly but did not answer. He did not know what to say. He had played with this child named Ruru before. She was different from other children. The first time he played with her, she was obviously resistant, but later on, he took special care of her. She was considered to be enlightened and tasted the sweetness of it. Later on, when that kind of thing happened again, it was all up to him. Have you played before? Li Hanlin was an adult, so he asked him in an adult tone. Luo Hanjin pondered for a moment before nodding his head resentfully. Yes, tisk, tisk. Li Hanlin was truly disgusted. You won't even spare a little girl? Luo Hanjin's face became even hotter. What are you guys talking about? He frowned. Nothing. Li Hanlin broke out in a cold sweat. She could not tell you about this. It was not suitable for children, not suitable for children. There's another girl. Do you know her? Li Hanlin pointed at the other photo. Luo Hanjin looked at it carefully, and after thinking hard for a while, he nodded in a daze. Yes, I have some impression of him, but I can't remember him clearly. Don't have a deep memory? Yun Tianyu frowned, somewhat displeased with his ambiguous answer. Li Hanlin grabbed his hair and pressed his head in front of the photo. Look carefully. Chapter 518. Luo Hanjin stared at the photo for a while longer. His memory returned, and he slowly said, I seem to remember now. Xiao Ro's jade pendant seems to have been taken from this child, taken. Stole. He corrected his choice of words. Yun Tianyo's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed slightly. In other words, that jade pendant originally belonged to her? I don't think so. When this child first entered the orphanage, other than a jade pendant, she also had a bracelet. They were all expensive items, but her clothes were tattered. I have a deep impression of this. Yun Tianyo's gaze changed. The reason why Mu Wanru wanted to kill Yun Shishir was because of her parentage. The killer's confession before his death still rang in his ears. Yun Tianyu furrowed his brows as he pieced all the clues together. It seemed that the whole situation was gradually becoming clearer. Li Hanlin also sorted out his thoughts. Mu Wanru and Yun Shishir were orphans from the same orphanage. This jade pendant was originally Yun Shishir's personal keepsake. Mu Wanru stole it, and Grandpa Mu adopted her by accident. Therefore, Mu Wanru had replaced Yun Shishir's identity today. Everything she had now should belong to Yun Shishir. Therefore, Yun Shishir's appearance made Mu Wanru wary, so she used all means to get rid of this thorn in her flesh. Mu Yaja's original fiancé was supposed to be Yun Shishir. Therefore, Mu Wanru's motive for killing her was to silence her. I heard that you were sent here for some crime, so don't try to hide anything from me. Li Hanlin patted his face and asked, did you do anything heartless to this girl? No. Luo Hanjin immediately shook his head. I really didn't. You didn't? Li Hanlin shouted. Luo Hanjin was so scared that he almost wet his pants. I swear to God, I really didn't. This girl was a little autistic. She didn't like to talk and didn't get close to anyone. I did take liberties with her, but I didn't do anything like that. Get physical with her. Yun Tianyo's eyes turned cold, and his handsome face turned gloomy and hostile. His sharp eyes made Luo Hanjin break out in cold sweat. He immediately begged for mercy, I really didn't do anything else. What do you mean by groping? Speak clearly. Li Hanlin scolded. Luo Hanjin nodded repeatedly and confessed in full detail. At first, when Yun Shishir was adopted by the orphanage, Luo Hanjin saw that she was sweet and pretty, so he passed her photo to several bosses in the upper-class circle. Just like what Qin Zhou had said, the children in Luo Hanjin's orphanage had adopted good-looking girls as thin horses and sold them at a high price to those rich and powerful local bosses in the name of adoption. Many bosses preferred this kind of nourishment. Yun Shishir's looks were more in line with those bosses' aesthetic standards. Many bosses were very interested in this girl, so Luo Hanjin wanted to nurture her talents so that he could sell her at a high price. Alas, Yun Shishir had autistic tendencies when she was young. After the car accident, she suffered the pain of losing her mother. After entering the orphanage, she became depressed and soon lost weight. She did not like to talk and was not well liked. She was like a soulless puppet. Chapter 519. Those bosses did not like autistic children. Without a market, Luo Hanjin was a little aggrieved, so he beat her up to vent his anger. It was not that he did not harbor any ill intentions toward her. He had tried to get physical with her, but she resisted so fiercely that he gave up on the idea. Later, the Yun family adopted her and donated a sky-high amount of money to the orphanage. I swear, I really didn't do anything to her. The so-called groping was only touching her hand. Luo Hanjin was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. Li Hanlin's eyes were filled with disgust when he heard this. He turned to look at Yun Tianyu, only to see the latter's gloomy face. Touched her hand? Yun Tianyu's face darkened, and his lips curled up slightly. Your hand is really dirty. Luo Hanjin nodded his head repeatedly. Yes, dirty. He. If you say it's dirty, then it's dirty. Since you think it's dirty, too, then what should I do? Yun Tianyu gracefully propped his chin on one hand and tapped his finger on the table. Cripple it yourself. Li Hanlin threw a small knife to Luo Hanjin. Do it. What? What do you mean? Cripple whichever hand you touched her with, ordered Yun Tianyu coldly. Luo Hanjin was stunned. Was this child joking with him? How could he say such cruel and merciless words in such a casual manner? Was he really a 6-year-old child? Are you kidding me? Sometimes, the rules of this world are really interesting. You left those children with nightmares and pain that they can't erase for the rest of their lives. Now, you're serving your sentence in prison. Do you really think that prison can erase your sins? Yun Tianyu slowly got up and walked up to him. His eyes were filled with disgust. You. What did you ask me? I've answered all your questions honestly. What else do you want me to do? What do I want? I want to dig out your heart and see if it's black or not. Yun Tianyu said blandly. It's just that I find it dirty. Luo Hanjin trembled with fear and broke out in a cold sweat. He did not doubt that this child would dare to do so and was not just trying to scare him. Why? Why did you? He suddenly realized something and lowered his head to look at the girl's delicate face in the photo. His face stiffened, and he mechanically raised his head to look at Yun Tianyo's face in horror. Their facial features were similar. Especially between their eyebrows, they were extremely similar. She. Who is she to you? Do it yourself, lest you dirty my hands. Yun Tianyu nonchalantly replied, if I were to make a move, it wouldn't be as simple as just crippling your hand. Luo Hanjin was startled. Looking at Yun Tianyo's pair of gloomy and chilling eyes, he fell into great fear and trembled. He had never believed in retribution. Even though the truth had been exposed and he had been sent to prison, he had seen his sentence reduced over the past few years through various means. He was even more convinced that the retribution was just a joke. But retribution would really come. And now, it was here. He could tell that this child was not a simple character. Luo Hanjin's entire body trembled as he fell into extreme despair. Li Hanlin asked kindly, do you need my help? Chapter 520. Ah! A blood-curdling scream echoed in the interrogation room. Continue. I was wrong. I was wrong. Amid the excruciating pain, Luo Hanjin gritted his teeth and stabbed a second time. His legs trembled as he sank into madness. When the prison guard brought him back to the prison, Luo Hanjin was in a daze. He kept begging for mercy with bloodshot eyes and an ashen face. Yun Tianyu watched coldly as the man was dragged away. His expression was cold and tense. Li Hanlin sighed, carried Yun Tianyu in his arms, and slowly left. Agent Li, my heart aches for my mommy. What exactly did she go through? Depression? Misanthropy? What kind of darkness did she go through? My heart hurts so much. Yun Tianyu let him carry him. His little hand clutched at his chest, feeling as if it was about to bleed. Li Hanlin could only sigh. He thought to himself, compared to Yun Shishir, my heart aches for this child more. How should we deal with Mu Wanru next? That woman is vicious. She deserves to die. Yun Tianyo's eyes were dark and gloomy. His heart was slowly filled with hatred. Following that, his lips curled into a sinister smile. I won't let anyone who hurts mommy off. Mu residence. As Mu Yichen walked down the stairs, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. He paused in his steps and clutched his chest tightly. He felt an inexplicable pain in his heart that almost made him suffocate. Yichen? What's wrong? Seeing his solemn look, Mu Wanru knew that his old illness was acting up. Mu Yichen ignored her question and went down the stairs on his own. Mu Wanru's face stiffened. She thought to herself, this child is not my biological child. He's distant from me and is not close to me at all. Mu Wanru's lips curled into a cold smile as she followed him down the stairs. The servants had already prepared dinner. She could not help asking, where's young master? Daddy's schedule tonight is a direct flight to England to settle an acquisition case, Xiao Yichen said. I overheard it when I passed by the study room yesterday. So busy. Leaning on his walking stick, he slowly made his way downstairs. Wanru, why are you back so late tonight? Mu Wanru felt guilty for a moment and said perfunctorily, I went shopping and bought some clothes for myself. Oh. Have a seat. After Mu Xing took his seat, Mu Wanru and Mu Yichen slowly took their seats. At the dining table, Mu Wanru suddenly raised her head to look at her grandpa and asked in a roundabout manner, Grandpa, there's something I don't know if I should ask. What is it? Mu Wanru cautiously asked, 6 years ago, I was diagnosed as infertile. Is that true? Mu Yichen raised his head and looked at Mu Wanru in confusion. He seemed to have seen the word infertility on TV before. It had been introduced in a program before. It meant that one could not have children. Mu Xing slowly put down his chopsticks with a solemn look. For this matter, I've invited all the authoritative experts in the country and abroad. They all said that you're infertile and can't have children. Could it be that I'm really infertile? Mu Wanru pretended to be indignant. Grandpa, I really want to give birth to a child for the Mu family to continue the family line. Grandpa understands your feelings. Mu Xing knitted his brows. But this matter can't be forced. Chapter 521. The latter was stunned. Mu Yichen showed a look of disdain on his face. Younger brother? He only had one younger brother. He would not acknowledge the child she gave birth to. Mu Yichen frowned. Yun Tianyou's cold and arrogant face appeared in his mind. This was the only brother he would acknowledge in his life. He would not acknowledge anyone else. Grandpa, Wanru, this matter can't be rushed. When fate comes, success will follow naturally. The old man hurriedly consoled her, thinking that she was just worried about her child. Mu Wanru knew how to read people's expressions and knew that she would make mistakes if she spoke too much. She was afraid of arousing his suspicion. After all, she could not let anyone know about her pregnancy before she came up with a compromise. Otherwise, she would be finished. After dinner, she felt nauseous for some reason. She endured it and ran to the toilet to retch. A servant passing by saw her and asked with concern, "Young madam, what's wrong?" "I'm fine. Look at how you're vomiting." "I thought it was a sign of pregnancy." Mu Wanru's face stiffened and she glared at her viciously. The latter knew that she had misspoken and retreated with her head lowered. Mu Wanru looked up at the mirror, her face was frighteningly pale. "Thank you. You can drop me off here." Yun Shishir got out of the car and walked to the driver's seat window. She smiled at Qin Zhou. Qin Zhou held the steering wheel and looked at her worriedly. He seemed to be uneasy. "Shishir, are you okay? You must rest early when you get back. Otherwise, it'll be hard for your body to recover." "Master Qin, don't worry. My body recovers very well. I'll be back to normal after a nap." Yun Shishir gently patted her chest to comfort him. Qin Zhou was amused by her expression and urged, "All right, then you should hurry back." The car slowly drove away. After Yun Shishir watched the car leave, she turned around, walked to the door, and unlocked it to enter the house. It was already late. Pushing the door open, the room was cold and empty. The floor-to-ceiling windows were wide open, and the night breeze blew in, lifting the pure white curtains. There was no one at home. Not long ago, Li Hanlin called to inform her that he had brought Yu Yu to the bookstore to read. He seemed to like the child a lot. Yu Yu always hung out with the principal. Yun Shishir placed her bag on the cabinet. Suddenly, she felt a chill. Using the moonlight shining through the window, she walked to the window and closed it. In the enclosed space, she suddenly smelled a wisp of smoke. Why is there the smell of smoke? He had quit smoking many years ago. Yu Yu would never smoke. Yun Shishir turned around abruptly and looked around the living room. There was no one in the huge living room. She turned around, but the smell of smoke had faded a lot. She smiled. Was it an illusion? Could it be that she was too sensitive? Feeling a little tired, Yun Shishir walked to the bedroom door and pushed it open. Just as she entered the room, a tall shadow walked toward her. Yun Shishir did not even have time to react before she was pressed against the door by the shadow that was right in front of her. The tall and lanky figure easily trapped her in a small space. Yun Shishir turned pale with fright. Her eyes widened in horror as she looked up. Against the moonlight outside the window, she guessed that the shadow was a young man. Chapter 522. There was a familiar and elegant fragrance on the man's body. It was mixed with the faint smell of cigarettes. Yun Shishir was shocked and angry. In her nervousness, she clenched her fist and swung it at the man's face. However, her fist was easily intercepted by the man. The man held her shoulder with one hand and bent down slightly. He whispered into her ear, "Don't move. It's me." Yun Shishir's heart skipped a beat. Muyaja. How did he get in? In the darkness, the man's strong aura and unique masculine aura almost overwhelmed her. She had no way of retreating. Why was he here? She was stunned for a moment before she suddenly reacted. This huge villa was his. Moreover, he had also bought this garden bungalow for her. He should have gotten the key, right? Thinking of this, a trace of anger appeared on her face. Just now, when he was frightened, he was still in a state of shock and his heart was beating rapidly. Why was this man always so self-willed? The fabric of his clothes rubbed against her skin. Through the thin material of his shirt, the man's body temperature was almost ironing her breath. For some reason, Yun Shishir suddenly thought of Mu Wanru. This afternoon, when she saw her vomiting, she had a lot of doubts and dark clouds in her heart. She suddenly wanted to ask Muyaja. Did something happen between him and Mu Wanru? To put it more bluntly, did he touch Mu Wanru or any other woman? Or was she the only woman he had from the beginning to the end? She suddenly cared about this question. Before she could react, the man lowered his head and gently covered her lips, sweeping away her breath and the doubts that had yet to come out of her mouth. In the darkness, Muyaja couldn't see Yun Shishir's complicated and hesitant expression. Yun Shishir couldn't see the tense forbearance on Muyaja's face. The kiss was charming and lingering. He seemed to be a little anxious to possess this woman, but he carefully suppressed the desire in his body. She seemed to be a fragile object, and no matter what, he had to treat her gently. His thin lips pressed tightly against hers, almost tyrannically sweeping away her sweet breath. The tip of his tongue gently outlined the outline of her lips, carefully tracing and tasting. It was so gentle that Yun Shishir felt as if she was being carefully doted on by this man. The temperature in the air rose. Gradually, her originally tense body gradually relaxed and she tried to respond to his kiss. Undoubtedly, her kissing skills were extremely inexperienced. Muyaja felt that this woman was extremely stupid. Even if she was inexperienced, they had kissed more than a few times, so it was time for her to be enlightened. But when he was sucked into her mouth and sucked on her lilac, he was bitten several times by her pearly white teeth. She was clumsy and unreasonably clumsy. He was a little unhappy in his heart, but he also felt that she was much more adorable like this. Thus, he patiently led her and guided her. Following his guidance, Yun Shishir responded to him bit by bit. At this moment, their breaths were intertwined and their lips were touching. Because their bodies were so close to each other, they could easily feel each other's body temperature. Yun Shishir could also naturally feel the subtle changes in the man's body. Her face immediately turned hot. Yun Shishir was pressed against the door by him, almost unable to resist. Chapter 523. Muyaja lowered his head to look at her, taking in all the embarrassment and coquettishness on her face. He brazenly pressed her against the door and slid his hand under her skirt. Don't. Yun Shishir was shocked. You had come back at some point. What did this man want to do? Muyaja leaned against her ear and teased her white earlobe. Shishir, I want you. His warm breath brushed against her face. He said her name softly. His tone was affectionate, and there was a hint of desire in it. It was as if he was pleasing her. Shishir, this man rarely called her that. Now that he said her name in such a tone, she almost lost her ability to resist. This man had the ability to make any woman lose the ability to struggle. While she was lost in thought, the man's hand moved deeper into the unknown territory. Yun Shishir held his hand tightly and said angrily, "Don't mess around." Mess around? Muyaja was a little displeased by her careless choice of words. He just missed her very much. Tonight, he was flying straight to London. There was an acquisition case tomorrow, and it was very important to Dishing Financial Group. He had to win this case. However, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to return for half a month. Thinking that he would not be able to touch this woman for half a month, he was furious. He easily broke free from her resistance. His hand moved even deeper, and his body pressed against hers. Where he ignored her, his movements were a little more ruthless. In a flash, her clothes were stripped down to her shoulders. Yun Shishir was shocked and angry. Her struggling became more intense. It was not that she did not have any desires, but Yu might be coming home soon. The first thing he would do when he got home was to make out with her. If the child were to witness this scene, thinking of that embarrassing situation, Yun Shishir felt her face burning. She glared at the man. In the dark, the man ignored her warning eyes and kissed her again. This time, the kiss was not as gentle and calm as before. Instead, it carried a hint of urgency, as if he wanted to devour her whole. Yun Shishir dodged his attack, and the man took the opportunity to kiss her neck, biting it lightly. Ah, was this man in heat again? What a beast in human clothing. While they were tearing at each other, there were a few times where they almost went off by accident. Mu Yaja secretly gritted his teeth. He was a little angry, so he increased the strength of his hand. Yun Shishir was no match for his methods, and in the blink of an eye, her coat was taken off. Yun Shishir flew into a rage out of humiliation. Mu Yaja. Yun Shishir. Mu Yaja also raised his head and glared at her. His face was filled with dissatisfaction and anger. Are you in heat? You know that I'm in heat. Can't you cooperate with me? Mu Yaja seemed to feel justified and questioned her instead. Yun Shishir was shocked by his shamelessness. I'm flying straight to London tonight for an acquisition. You won't be able to see me for half a month. Mu Yaja grabbed her chin. You really don't want me at all? Yun Shishir's face and ears turned red from his explicit questioning. Her cheeks burned to the boiling point in an instant. She turned her face away fiercely, and her heart was beating wildly. If the lights were on, Mu Yaja would definitely see her blushing face because of shyness. Suddenly, the sound of the door closing came from outside. Chapter 524. Could it be that Yu was back? The two of them looked at each other. Then, they heard the sound of footsteps outside the door. Then, they heard Yu's cheerful footsteps and an innocent and romantic voice. Stupid mommy, Yu is back. Bam! The little bun seemed to have turned on the lights in the living room. Then, he made a sound of surprise and ran upstairs to look for her. Mommy, Mu Yaja's eyes twitched. Why didn't this rascal come back earlier or later? Why did he come back at such an unlucky time? Yun Shishir was also very embarrassed. Her mind was blank, but she didn't dare to respond and hurriedly put on her coat. In the dark, she couldn't see where he threw the coat. She didn't dare to turn on the lights for fear of making too much noise. Yun Shishir was so embarrassed that she wanted to die. Why, she felt like she was about to be caught in the act. Where are my clothes? Yun Shishir used the opportunity when the little bun went upstairs to look for her clothes. In a hurry, she pushed Mu Yaja away. However, perhaps because she was too flustered, she didn't bother to turn on the lights. In the dark, she stumbled and bumped into Mu Yaja's chin. Ugh, the two of them were caught off guard, and their bodies collided. Mu Yaja was in pain, so he didn't stabilize himself and fell backward. Yun Shishir's straps got caught on Mu Yaja's shirt button, and she fell down with her body against his. With a dull thud, the two of them fell to the ground. Mu Yaja was a little speechless. He muttered, "Stupid woman. How dare you blame me? Don't you know how to turn on the lights first? Damn. What if he comes looking for you after I turn on the lights? Ah, lock the door first." Yun Shishir quickly got up, but she didn't realize that the strap on her dress was still wrapped around the man's shirt button. She got up, but due to the force of gravity, she fell back onto Mu Yaja's chest. The man was almost touched by her IQ. Your clothes. What do you mean? It caught my button. The man gritted his teeth. Yun Shishir's face was extremely embarrassed. She immediately reached out to untie it, but she couldn't untie it for a long time. Mu Yaja was both angry and amused. Why did he end up in such an awkward situation when he wanted to spend some time with her before he left the country? Turn on the lights first. Stand up first. How are you going to stand if my clothes are twisted and buttoned up? How am I supposed to turn on the lights with you on top of me? The man was silent for half a second. Where's the switch? Yun Shishir held her forehead and sighed. She was about to break down. Yun Tianyu wandered around upstairs but did not find anyone. He then ran to the rooftop to take a look. His mommy had some plants there, and she would usually water them when she got home. There was no one on the rooftop either. The little lad was puzzled. Could it be that she was not home yet? He was a little worried, so he quickly took out his phone and dialed Yun Shishir's number. After a few seconds of silence, a ringtone was heard from the living room downstairs. Black lines appeared on the little bun's forehead. Was she downstairs? Thus, he hurried downstairs and followed the ringtone to find Yun Shishir's bag on the cabinet. Was she already home? The corner of his eyes twitched violently. Why did no one respond to his call, then? Was Mommy playing hide-and-seek with him? Mommy, where are you? Yu is home. I want kisses and hugs. The man in the room heard him and was stunned. Why was this little bun so different in front of people and behind them? Chapter 525. What a mischievous person. He was cool and arrogant in front of him, but why did he become so adorable in front of Yun Shishir? Yun Shishir finally unbuttoned the straps on his shirt. When she heard his soft and adorable voice, she instinctively opened her mouth to respond, but before she could utter a word, she quickly covered her mouth in shock. Both of them looked at each other. Yun Shishir gestured at Mu Yaja to keep quiet. Shoo, now, even Mu Yaja could not help but feel that the two were not being affectionate and were having an affair. It was as if they were caught red-handed. Yun Shishir put on her coat and looked around. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and pulled it open. Outside was the courtyard. She turned to look at Mu Yaja and urged him in a low voice, "Leave quickly." Mu Yaja was inexplicably angry and snorted. "Why should I leave?" Yun Shishir was stunned. Yu is back. You should leave first, okay? I'm not leaving. I haven't kissed or hugged you. Do you think I'll leave just because you want me to? Mu Yaja leaned against the wall elegantly and mimicked Yu's tone. Yun Shishir's lips twitched violently. Stop fooling around. I'm not fooling around, Mu Yaja said coldly. You're a child, too. Yun Shishir was so angry that she laughed. Why were the father and son alike? Was it really a matter of genetics? When it came to acting shamelessly, the father and son were exactly alike. Outside the door, Yun Tianyu took a stroll in the bathroom and saw that the light was on through the crack of the door. Yun Shishir had washed her hands when she came back and forgot to turn off the light. The little bun thought that she was bathing inside, so he leaned against the door and asked softly, "Mommy, are you bathing inside?" There was no response for a while. Then, "Mommy, I'm coming in." Little Munchkin covered his eyes and carefully turned the doorknob to enter. She peeked in the direction of the bathtub through the gaps between her fingers. No one. Little Munchkin crossed his arms in defeat and huffed angrily. Where is Mommy hiding? Went out. How could he not bring his phone with him when he went out? He walked out of the bathroom and looked at his mommy's bedroom. Through the crack in the door, she saw that the lights were off in the room, but there were shadows flashing by. Yun Tianyu cocked a brow in suspicion. He walked to the door and knocked on it. "Mommy, I know you're inside. Can I come in?" Yun Shishir's lips twitched as she glared at Mu Yaja. The latter had a relaxed look on his face, and there was no trace of panic on his face. He crooked his finger at her, and then his slender finger gently tapped his cheek as a hint. Even though Yun Shishir was angry, she couldn't do anything to him. She walked in front of him. The man grabbed her arm and pulled it hard, and she fell into his embrace. Yun Shishir gritted her teeth, tiptoed, held his handsome face, and kissed his thin lips. The kiss deepened. The kiss was urgent and anxious. Mu Yaja was a little displeased. This woman actually chased him away for her son. Hence, he bit the corner of her lips. Yun Shishir pursed her lips in pain and pulled away from his. She glared at him fiercely, asking with her eyes, "Are you satisfied now?" Mu Yaja looked at her embarrassed expression with a teasing look in his eyes. Seeing that the door was not locked, Yun Tianyu turned the doorknob. Just as he pushed the door open, the lights in the room lit up with a click. Slightly startled, Yun Tianyu looked over. Chapter 526. He saw Yun Shishir standing by the bed with her hands behind her back. She looked at him with a smile. "Baby, you're back." Yun Tianyu was stunned for a moment before he fixed his eyes on her face. He scanned her from head to toe. Yu Yu's gaze then landed on her neck. There was a faint mark of intimacy there. Although it was not eye-catching, it made Yun Shishir's snow-white skin look exceptionally red. Yun Tianyu's eyes met hers. He was startled and raised an eyebrow suspiciously. He saw Yun Shishir standing by the bed with an embarrassed expression. Her clothes were a little messy, especially at the collar, which had some creases. She forced a smile on her face, but it could not hide her panic and embarrassment. Her eyes revealed an unnatural smile, especially under Yu Yu's suspicious gaze, which made her smile look even more awkward and stiff. "Yu Yu." Yun Shishir called out to him awkwardly. Following his gaze, she realized that her clothes were a little wrinkled. She then smiled awkwardly, only to see Yu Yu's eyes still sizing her up. As if he had caught some clues, the expression on his young face darkened. His gaze made her feel extremely awkward. There was a moment of dead silence. Yun Shishir broke the awkwardness. "Yu Yu, what's wrong with you?" Yu Yu was silent for a moment before he glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. With a strange look, he asked, "Mommy, I called you so many times, why didn't you reply to me?" "Because, Mommy, are you doing something sneaky?" Yun Shishir's face turned red as she choked on her words. She had no words to explain. She sat by the bed and patted it. "Come, Yu Yu, sit." She tried to change the topic. Yu Yu was still suspicious. He looked around and saw that the room was neat and tidy. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Only then did he dispel some of his doubts. He walked over and threw himself into Yun Shishir's arms. "Mommy." Yu Yu frowned when she threw herself into Yun Shishir's arms. His nose was especially sensitive, and he immediately smelled the fresh and elegant fragrance on Yun Shishir's body. His sharp nose told him that it was a man's perfume, a little like cologne. When he used to go shopping with his mother, he had smelled the same scent when they passed by the perfume counter. Yu Yu's heart skipped a beat. She felt that this fragrance was strangely familiar. Mu Yaja. He was here. Yun Shishir lowered her head and held his smiling face. She kissed him on both cheeks and intimately rubbed the tip of his nose. However, she saw that his expression was a little strange. "Yu Yu. What's wrong? Mommy's body smells like perfume." Yu Yu looked at her with a pout and didn't mince his words. Yun Shishir stuttered awkwardly. "That's Mommy's perfume." "Nonsense. Mommy's body smells good. She never wears perfume." Yu Yu mercilessly exposed her lie. Yun Shishir's expression froze. Was this child usually so observant? He even knew whether she wore perfume or not. Yu Yu decided to get to the bottom of this. Hence, he pointed at the red mark on her neck and asked, "What's this?" "Where?" "Here. It's red." Yu Yu narrowed his eyes and continued to ask. Chapter 527. "Ah, when did he leave it? That bastard." Yu Yu chased after her and asked, "Mommy, what's that?" "It's a mosquito bite." "That's not a mosquito bite." Yu Yu placed his hands on his chest. He was obviously unhappy with her contradictory explanation. She turned around and saw the little bun looking at her suspiciously. He suddenly said, "There's something going on." Silence. Did this child have to be so sensitive? The child was too smart. It wasn't good. She didn't know how to deal with it. Yun Shusher didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She hurriedly went into the bathroom and tidied up her messy clothes in front of the mirror. Yu walked around the room and suddenly found a shoe print on the floor-to-ceiling window. They had hired a cleaner, and a cleaner would come to clean the room regularly every day. The room was always clean. He squatted down and touched the print. It was still fresh and seemed to have been left not long ago. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and pushed it open. He walked to the balcony and turned on the lights in the courtyard. He looked around. Who? There was a melodious whistle. Yu's expression changed. He looked in the direction of the sound and saw a tall man standing under a tree in the courtyard with his hands in his pockets. Who's that? Mu Yaja slowly walked out from under the tree. Under the light, his handsome face broke into a sinister smirk, which was full of evil intent. He was wearing a shirt with the collar slightly open. There was also a red kiss mark on the same spot as Yun Shusher's. It was bright and eye-catching. Mu Yaja smiled evilly and looked at Yu provocatively. This man was clearly openly provoking him. Yu clenched his fists in anger. His expression turned cold and he looked unhappy. Mu Yaja, however, seemed to ignore the anger on his face as he turned around and boldly left through the courtyard's back door. When Yun Shusher returned to the room, she saw Yun Tianyu standing on the balcony outside the window. His stiff back showed a hint of anger. What's wrong? Yu? Yun Shusher walked over and squatted in front of him. Yun Tianyu's handsome little face scrunched up in sadness. His eyes were brimming with tears. He looked so aggrieved that it was as if the sky was about to collapse on him. His little mouth pouted high into the air. I'm not happy. I want mommy's kisses and hugs. He had been working so hard outside, only to find that his dear mommy had been snatched away by that man. She had been kissed and hugged. She did not feel happy. Yun Shusher immediately hugged him and coaxed him. Yu baby, what's wrong? Mommy betrayed me. Yu cried as he rubbed his tears. Mommy must have other babies in her heart. Yu is no longer the first in her heart. Yun Shusher broke out in a cold sweat and quickly coaxed him. No. Yu will always be the first in mommy's heart. No one can replace you. Woo. I don't believe it. Yu complained tearfully. Mommy's heart has changed. Mommy doesn't love Yu anymore. Yu's heart hurts so much. Woo. It's shattered into pieces. Chapter 528. Nonsense. Yu's heart was fine, how could it be broken into pieces? Come, let mommy give you a kiss. Yu, don't cry. Thus, she cupped Yu's face in her hands and gave him a big kiss. Yu's tears streamed down his cheeks as he moved his other cheek to her with an aggrieved look. This side, Yun Shusher quickly added another kiss. Kiss me on the mouth. Yu pouted his pinkish lips aggrievedly. Yun Shusher did not know whether to laugh or cry as she gave him a light peck on the lips. Mwah. Yu was finally satisfied and stopped crying. The child's face was really like the weather in June, it could change at any moment. He was complaining about her tearfully earlier, but after a few kisses, his tears turned into smiles as he hugged her shoulders. Yu cursed inwardly, Mu Yaja, how dare you snatch mommy from me? Just you wait. The little lad returned to the study room, locked the door, and sat in front of the desk. He turned on the computer system and the remote control. The bookcase slowly opened to reveal a large screen wall. He opened the system interface and typed furiously on the keyboard. The interface soon showed the city's transportation system. Li Hanlin had previously mentioned to him that Dishing Financial Group had an important acquisition project. Tonight's flight was flying directly to London, England. They were probably on their way to the private airport now. Yun Tianyu propped his head on his hands as his pink lips curled into a devilish smile. He stared at the screen and keyed in a series of commands. He successfully hacked into the system. 10 seconds later, he looked at the crisscrossing route system on the screen with a satisfied look on his face. He quickly glanced at it, and the 10 routes to the Mu Group's private airport appeared in his mind. He sneered and entered another command. He hit the enter key, and the dozens of routes on the screen turned red. Muyaja, you want to play with me? Naive. Honk, 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 beep, beep, beep. On the Hawaiian elevated highway, the sound of horns and car horns rose and fell one after another, piercing one's eardrums, causing one to be unable to help but feel depressed. Looking from afar, the dense tail lights of cars on the highway, which was tens of kilometers long, made one's scalp tingle. Chairman Mu, there seems to be a traffic jam ahead. The driver turned around and asked anxiously. Mu Yaja was originally staring at the screen of his laptop and browsing through his emails. Hearing this, he raised his head. Unknowingly, the cars outside the window were packed together, making it difficult to move. What happened? There's a traffic jam, didn't I tell you to avoid the traffic? Chairman Mu, this road has never been blocked before. It's the fastest route to the airport. The driver defended himself. It seems that there's something wrong with the signal in front. Signal malfunction? Yes. It seems that the signal lights on the outer ring line are malfunctioning, so there's a traffic jam. Damn it. Mu Yaja raised his wrist to look at the time. There was not much time left before tonight's final flight. If he missed tonight's flight, if they missed the flight, they would have to submit a new application for the private flight route. If that happened, they would not be able to make it in time for tomorrow's acquisition. It was not rush hour at all. Besides, the capital's traffic system had always been very stable. Why would the signal malfunction for no reason? The traffic police hurried over to unblock the traffic jam. They were in a terrible fix. Chapter 529. Mu Yaja sped all the way to the airport and almost missed the flight. Just as he was about to board the plane, his phone rang. Mu Yaja picked up the call. The little lad's devilish yet childish voice came from the other end. Mu Yaja, this is what you get for openly provoking me. Mu Yaja was stunned. Did you do all this? The man's handsome brows arched in disbelief. How could such a huge city's transportation system be so easily hacked by a 7-year-old child? If the Minister of Transportation knew that the culprit behind the system's paralysis was a 7-year-old boy, how would he feel? Who else do you think I did it? In the study room, Yun Tianyu had his earpiece on as he fiddled with the 17th order Rubik's Cube. His lips curled into a playful smile. I'm really sorry for almost delaying your flight. I just wanted to see if you had the ability to catch the last flight. Scheming. Extremely scheming. He actually used such a method to tease him. Mu Yaja was not angry, though. Instead, he was shocked by the boy's ability. To be able to destroy and even paralyze the transportation system in a short period of time, it took an hour for it to return to normal. It was unbelievable that such an ability came from a 6-year-old child. You must be very surprised. Yun Tianyu placed the restored Rubik's Cube on the study table. With his hands clasped together and his chin under his head, he asked quietly, I heard that you're investigating me. Haven't you been investigating the chairman of Liji Holdings? Mu Yaja's face instantly tensed up. He had an inexplicable premonition. Mu Yaja, since you're my daddy, I'll tell you in secret. Yun Tianyu looked at the phone and casually enunciated each word. I'm the chairman of Liji Holdings. You? Mu Yaja was stunned. The chairman of the world's largest toy supplier, Liji Holdings, was actually him? Yun Tianyu smiled. He could vaguely imagine Mu Yaja's shocked expression right now. There was no harm in revealing his true identity to him. This identity alone was enough to shock him. However, his identity was definitely not as simple as he had imagined. If he told his father that he was not only the chairman of Liji Holdings, but he was also one of the top executives of Hurricane Group, would his father be scared to death? If he knew that he controlled the entire East Asian arms market, what kind of shocked expression would he have? If he knew that the Hurricane Group's Sky Eye system was developed by him, and if he knew that the toys he designed were used by the Hurricane Group in military equipment, what kind of expression would he have? But he wouldn't let his daddy know about this. He would not let him find out about these secrets. If anyone could find out everything that they wanted to, wouldn't he lose a lot of face? This was his secret. Yun Tianyo's pink lips lightly pursed as he leisurely said, Mu Yaja, your son isn't as simple as you think. Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows slightly. He felt that this little fellow was far beyond his imagination. Does your mommy know about this? She doesn't, and I won't let her know, either. Yun Tianyu said. Mu Yaja, there's something I want you to know. Before you chase after my mommy, can you deal with that fiancé of yours first? Yun Tianyu coldly asked. Chapter 530. Don't tell me that you don't know Mu Wanru's background. You should have known what kind of person she is. I know. Yun Tianyu was stunned. Then, why haven't you made a move yet? You don't have to interfere in this matter. Mu Yaja did not know where this little bun had gotten this information from. While he was surprised, he was also shocked by the boy's formidable means. No matter what, he did not wish for Yun Tianyu to interfere in this matter. This was what he should do as a man. Naturally, he would not let his son step in. Yun Tianyu snorted. I can't be bothered either. Anyway, so what if he exposed Mu Wanru? He did not wish for his mother to return to the Mu family and become the so-called Missy of the Mu family. He disdained it. Status, power, and wealth, whatever the Mu family had, he had as well. Returning to the Mu family might not be a good thing for his mother. It was not that he had not met Grandpa Mu before, but he did not like him from the very beginning. He had a nagging feeling that this old man was not a simple character. From his eyes, Yun Tianyu could see too many things. His intuition told him that returning to the Mu family would bring more misfortune than fortune to his mother. After investigating Mu Wanru, Li Hanlin found out another thing. Yun Shishir had been in a car accident when she was 9 years old. That accident was very tragic. Out of the 3 people in the car, 1 was dead, 1 was injured, and 1 was missing. He heard that Yun Shishir's mother had passed away in a car accident along with the car. Li Hanlin, on the other hand, found out that the car accident was not a simple accident. He heard that in the early years, Mu Xing doted on his adopted daughter, Mu Qingqing, very much. For generations, the Mu family had a golden carved jade pendant that was passed down to the male and not the female. It was only passed down to the heir. At that time, Mu Lianchen was the Mu family's second heir, yet Mu Xing gave this jade pendant to Mu Qingqing as a personal keepsake. One could imagine how important she was to him. Later, she fell in love with a smuggler and got pregnant before marriage. This made Grandpa Mu furious and even forced her to abort the child in her womb. Mu Qingqing refused to comply and left the Mu family. From then on, her whereabouts were unknown. In order to find his beloved daughter, he did not hesitate to turn the capital upside down. A few years later, it was rumored that Mu Qingqing was hunted down by the underworld. Her car overturned during the chase and she fell off a cliff. But was it really because he was being hunted by the underworld? Li Hanlin even suspected that Mu Qingqing's car accident had something to do with this man. Rumor had it that Mu Xing loved his daughter so much that his love for Mu Qingqing was almost twisted. If that was the case, then the Mu family was no different from a tiger's den. Naturally, he would not let his mommy return to such a scary place. Since you like my mommy, please don't let her be accused of something she didn't do. Before you chase after my mommy, clean up all the women around you. Remember, this is my bottom line. Yun Tianyu said coldly, showing no mercy to her. This was undoubtedly a negotiation with him. There was no doubt that Yun Tianyu had the right to negotiate with him. My mommy is beautiful, gentle, and has such an outstanding son like me. Do you think she can only have you? He felt disgusted at the thought of what Mu Wanru had done to bully his mommy. Chapter 531. However, if Mu Wanru did not know the immensity of heaven and earth and came knocking on his door again and again, he did not mind getting rid of her personally. He did not want her to be an eyesore. Mu Yaja did not know how far his investigation had progressed. However, he kept Mu Wanru alive because he had his own plans. Similarly, at least for now, he would not let Yun Shishir return to the Mu family. He was stingy with his explanation and only said, "Don't worry, I'll handle it well." Mu Yaja, don't let your son down. Yun Tianyu raised a brow, satisfied with his reply. After hanging up the phone, Yun Tianyu walked out of the study room. Yun Shishir had already prepared dinner for him. Yun Shishir, who had no idea what had just happened, saw the little lad walk out of the study room and immediately called out, "Yu, come and have dinner." Okay. It was rare for Yun Shishir to cook, and Yu was extremely touched. When he walked to the dining table and saw the 2 bowls of instant noodles on it, Yu's face darkened and the corner of his mouth twitched. What is this? Noodles, Yun Shishir answered in embarrassment. What's that charred lump on the noodles? Yu pointed stiffly at the lump of unknown yellowish substance floating on the surface of the noodles. Yun Shishir nervously answered, it's a poached egg. I didn't pay attention to the heat when I was frying it. Then, what about this? Yu fiddled with his chopsticks, and some diced meat floated in the broth. Square leg meat. It's more flavorful after being diced, Yun Shishir explained. Yu remained silent. Mommy, I want it to be simpler. Besides, the instant noodles are delicious. Yu, don't be picky. Mommy has worked very hard. Yun Shishir looked guilty and begged for mercy with her hands clasped together. Mommy, your cooking skills are so poor, aren't you afraid that you won't be able to get married? Yun Shishir said without thinking, I'm not afraid. Why? Yu sat down at the table and asked curiously. Because Yu's cooking is the best. Whoever marries Mommy is simply blessed by the heavens. Yun Shishir said with a face full of satisfaction. Yu blushed and said, Mommy is the worst. Dinner was the simplest of instant noodles, fried eggs, and diced meat. It seemed a little shabby. However, she hadn't cooked for a long time. She didn't have much inspiration after entering the kitchen, so she simply made 2 bowls of noodles. It was simple and convenient. Even though Yu complained, she still finished the broth without leaving a single drop behind. It was his dearest Mommy who cooked it, after all. Even if the standard of the fried eggs was not satisfactory, they were cooked by his Mommy, after all. He would not be picky about it. Yun Shishir felt a little guilty. Yu, isn't Mommy too irresponsible? I cooked instant noodles for you to eat. Yu said faintly, Mommy still has self-awareness, right? Yun Shishir was silent. Forget it. I forgive you. Yu put down his bowl and chopsticks, looked up at her, and smiled. My Mommy is only responsible for being beautiful, while Yu is responsible for earning money to support the family. You are only 7 years old. How can you earn money to support the family? Yun Shishir was amused by him. What if I say that I can? Yun Tianyu suddenly asked. Huh? Yun Shishir did not understand what he meant. Forget it. Mommy is so stupid. He still did not have the courage to confess everything to her. Forget it. Let's wait a while more. I'll find a suitable opportunity to confess everything to her. Chapter 532. On the private jet. Mu Yaja sat leisurely on the sofa, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. His eyes were gloomy and deep. Yun Tianyu's arrogant words still rang in his ears. For the past 2 days, he had indeed ordered people to investigate who Lizhi Holdings' senior board members were. Never would he have thought that the chairman of Lizhi Holdings a year ago was actually Yun Tianyu. A year ago? How old was he? 6 years old. A 6-year-old kid sitting on the board of directors? Who would believe that? It was no wonder. Even Lizhi Holdings senior management had not seen this mysterious chairman before. If anyone were to find out that the chairman was actually a 7-year-old kid, no one would be able to accept it. What was the relationship between Yun Tianyu and Hurricane Group? He found out that the chairman was inextricably linked to the Hurricane Group. Could it be that Yun Tianyu had a close relationship with the Hurricane Group? He had threatened him to get rid of the women around him. Yun Tianyu had specifically emphasized Mu Wanru. Could it be that he had already found out about Mu Wanru's background? Mu Yaja slowly put down his coffee cup with a frown. He had indeed found out about Mu Wanru's identity long ago. 15 years ago, when Mu Xing brought Mu Wanru back to the Mu family, he did not suspect her identity because of the token she had given him. Because he was obsessed with Mu Qingcheng, he poured all his love and longing for her to Mu Wanru. Grandpa Mu's love for her aroused Mu Yanqing's suspicions, and he proposed to do a paternity test for Mu Wanru. Mu Xing also seriously scrutinized Mu Wanru's facial features. Indeed, there was a huge difference between her and Mu Qingcheng. There was no trace of Mu Qingcheng in her eyes. He was also a little apprehensive about whether she was Mu Qingcheng's real daughter. However, when the paternity test results were released, everyone was convinced that the possibility of her being the daughter of Mu Wanru's parents was higher. However, as Mu Wanru became an adult, even Grandpa Mu had many doubts about her identity. She didn't look like her at all. Regardless of appearance or temperament, they were completely different. Mu Xing was also suspicious of her. Although her appearance was beautiful and delicate, she didn't look like that woman's at all, which aroused his suspicion. Hence, Grandpa Mu secretly ordered someone to take her hair for a DNA test. In the end, there was still no problem. Mu Yaja was suspicious and secretly investigated, only to find out that Mu Wanru had secretly bribed the people in the genetics department in the hospital to change the DNA test results. Because of this, the old man was convinced. However, the real DNA report had been secretly destroyed by Mu Wanru. Mu Yaja was suspicious. Since she was not the real Mu Qingcheng's daughter, then what was the matter with the DNA report from 15 years ago? Could it be that someone had secretly snuck in? He followed these clues and investigated further. Soon, he found out the identity of Mu Wanru. The paternity report from 15 years ago was also secretly tampered with. It was just that no one knew who had tampered with it. Mu Wanru's identity was fake, but the evidence was conclusive. However, Mu Yaja did not make it public immediately. At that time, he did not care whether his fiancée was real or fake. Chapter 533. As the rightful future head of the Mu family, his marriage had always been decided by the family. At that time, he could not even control his own marriage. He accepted it without resistance. Alas, when it came to Mu Wanru, he could not even lay a finger on her. Hence, on the eve of their engagement, he announced to Mu Wanru that she was infertile when he did a health checkup for her. Without a doubt, Mu Wanru was healthy and could conceive a healthy baby. However, the authoritative professor that Mu Yaja had bribed claimed that she was infertile. This news was like a bolt from the blue, and Mu Wanru was dealt a heavy blow. Her inability to conceive meant that her so-called young Madame Mu was merely a title in name to the Mu family, which valued the continuation of the family line. The Mu group had the most authoritative medical research center. Hence, even though Mu Wanru was unwilling to accept the truth of her infertility, she did not doubt it. Mu Wanru was heartbroken when she learned that she was infertile, but she could only accept the reality helplessly. Mu Xing, on the other hand, felt that it was a pity. Hence, the surrogacy contract was formed. However, it was also because of this that he accidentally found out that Yun Shishir was Mu Qingcheng's biological child. Fate had played a huge joke on him. Yun Shishir woke up early in the morning. Yun Yecheng had sent Yun Tianyu to kindergarten. Before he left, he specially prepared breakfast for her and left a note with his neat and delicate handwriting. Mommy, Yu is going to school. I wish you all the best for today's opening ceremony. Fighting. Yun Shishir was surprised. This little guy's handwriting was really beautiful. Hence, she ate happily with Yu's breakfast. When she was ready to leave the house, she saw a long Bentley and a Mercedes-Benz parked at the entrance. A few men in black suits stood respectfully at the entrance. When they saw her, their gazes fell on her with a swoosh. Yun Shishir was so taken aback that she took a step back. She was quite taken aback by the grandeur of the event. "You guys are..." "Miss Yun, we are under President Mu's orders to escort you to the film studio for the opening ceremony." "Chairman Mu?" Yun Shishir was stunned for a moment before she reacted. "Mu Yaja? Why did he make such a big scene?" Yun Shishir suddenly recalled Qin Zhou's complaint to him that day. Mu Yaja had given Lin Fengtian an ultimatum. She was not allowed to have intimate physical contact with any male actors. Not to mention kissing, even holding hands would require a substitute. Lin Fengtian was so angry that he almost had a stroke. At first, she thought it was a joke. However, when she saw this scene, she suddenly realized that Mu Yaja was serious. This man was so **************. Such a perverted possessiveness. He had already flown directly to London, England, but he still sent a group of bodyguards and the film crew to monitor her. If Lin Fengtian knew about this, he would probably vomit blood from anger. The man in the suit did not say much. He opened the car door and gestured for her to get in. Yun Shishir laughed dryly. "You don't have to make such a big scene, right? I can go by myself." "Miss Yun, this is Chairman Mu's order. Please don't make things difficult for us," the man in the suit said in a low voice, but his tone was firm. Yun Shishir walked over with an unnatural expression and got into the car. Chapter 534. Today was the opening ceremony of The Green Apple. The venue was Guochang Film and Television Base, and all the staff of the production team were waiting there early in the morning. The opening ceremony was very grand, and there were many superstars gathered. The huge production team, from editing, makeup, lighting, art, and directing team, was one of the best in the country. The cast was also very luxurious. Apart from Gu Xingze, Yan Bingqing, Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian, and Song Tianyang, even the few supporting actors who did not have many scenes were all C-listers in the industry. It was obvious that the main cast was very star-studded. In comparison, Yun Shishir, a newcomer who had just signed with Huanyu, was able to join such a production team, which made many people envious. In order to make it in time for the opening ceremony, Gu Xingze flew back from Paris overnight. When his nanny van slowly drove into the film studio, the reporters, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately swarmed forward and surrounded the car. At the same time, many sightseeing fans who had been hiding in the parking lot all night also came out. They chased after the nanny van all the way and shouted their support lines like crazy. "Xingze, Xingze. I'm Wang Xingyao. Xingze, Xingze, love you, love you. Ah. Xingze. So handsome, so handsome. Sob, 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 I finally see Xingze in person." Cries, ear-piercing screams, and excited support. The sudden situation at the scene caught everyone off guard. The spotlights were flashing non-stop. The chaotic scene was very upsetting. Dozens of microphones were stretched high in front of the van door, and the crowd was crowded. Everyone wanted to interview the superstar first before the opening ceremony. Gu Xingze's words were enough to make the headlines in the entertainment industry. The media reporters sharpened their heads and blocked the entrance of the van. They were secretly competing with each other, pushing and shoving. Unlike Gu Xingze, when the nanny van of another supporting role in the production team stopped at the parking lot, no reporters came forward to block the door. Her cold and cheerless appearance was worlds apart from Gu Xingze's situation. Other stars lacked exposure, so they did not hesitate to hype themselves up to get exposure. However, Gu Xingze did not lack exposure at all. Wherever he went, in the car, Gu Xingze was wearing sunglasses and a mask. He was looking at the crowd outside the window with a gloomy face. He was sitting motionlessly in the car, listening to the demo album with headphones in his ears. The assistant beside him was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. He quickly contacted the security personnel of the film crew. Yes, the parking lot is here. It's all paparazzi. Did you clear the area or not? The interviews will be held after the opening ceremony. Xingzhe won't be accepting any interviews now. Yes. Quickly come and maintain order. After hanging up the phone, everyone in the car quietly waited for rescue. The driver looked at the bustling scene outside the window and couldn't help but sigh. These paparazzi are really going all out just to get a headline. Today is the opening ceremony of The Green Apple. These paparazzi booked the entire hotel 2 days ago so that they could interview Xingzhe first, the assistant said helplessly. Didn't the production team arrange an interview for Xingzhe? Chapter 535. The assistant sneered and explained, the interview script was prepared by the production team in advance. The reporters can't ask whatever they want. Soon, the security guards of the production team rushed over and began to clear the scene. These media reporters were unwilling to give up. After a few words, they got entangled with the security guards. Accompanied by the occasional shouting and shoving, the crowd pushed and shoved. A few obsessive fans blended into the crowd and clung to the car door crazily, banging on the car window excitedly. Screams rose and fell. Xingzhe. Ah, Xingzhe. Xingzhe. I love you, I love you. You'll always be my Prince Charming. Hubby. Hubby. A few obsessive fans finally saw their idol's face up close. They could no longer hold back their excitement and tears streamed down their cheeks. Gu Xingzhe ignored them. The assistant was stunned and speechless. F***ck. Must they be so crazy? Do these people have any integrity? This is too exaggerated. The opening ceremony is about to start. What's wrong with the production team? Why is the security so bad? They can't even clear the scene. What should we do? Someone complained. I guess the production team didn't expect Xingzhe's popularity to be so terrifying. Yun Shishir sat in the car. As soon as the car drove into the parking lot, she could hear the ear-piercing noise of the crowd through the car window. She looked out of the car window in surprise, only to see a nanny van surrounded by a crazy crowd. Among them, there were the security guards of the production team. Many media reporters carried their cameras and held recording pens. They blocked the front of the car and refused to budge. There were also many fanatical fans banging on the windows and doors as if they wanted to shatter the car window. The crazy scene made everyone speechless. What was going on? Yun Shishir shuddered with fear as she watched. In the past, she had only seen such a scene on television. However, at this moment, the feeling of being in the situation was terrifying. The car came to a steady stop. Yun Shishir got out of the car. At this moment, the sun was already a little dazzling. The bodyguards immediately held up an umbrella to shield her from the sun. The group of people carefully hugged her and walked quickly to the set. Not far away, a sharp-eyed media reporter saw her and exclaimed, Isn't that Yun Shishir? Oh my God, is that Yun Shishir? Everyone was extremely surprised and followed his line of sight. Yun Shishir had just gotten out of a Mercedes-Benz minivan, and a group of bodyguards in black surrounded her in the center of the crowd. There were more than 10 bodyguards in front and behind her, and the extravagance was frightening. All the reporters present were familiar with the name Yun Shishir. At Huanyu's cocktail party, Yun Shishir was dressed to the nines as Gu Xingzhe's female companion. She shocked the world and stole the limelight from many A-list female stars. Behind the scenes, many people were secretly speculating about the identity of this Yun Shishir. For a newcomer who had yet to debut to be able to attend Huanyu's annual cocktail party, and as the Heavenly King's female companion at that, it was truly enviable. After the reception, he successfully signed a contract with Huanyu's headquarters and officially debuted. As soon as she debuted, she was handpicked by Lin Fengtian to be the female lead in his new movie, becoming the new generation of Lady Phoenix. However, What made people speechless was that the manager she signed with was actually Qin Zhou, the person who made Gu Xingze a superstar. Could it be that she had some shocking background? She could actually make two A-list actresses, Yang Mi and Yan Bingqing, to be her foil? Chapter 536. Hence, a group of reporters scrambled to get close to Yun Shishir. When Yun Shishir saw the reporters carrying big and small bags and cameras rushing toward her like a wave, her expression changed and she instinctively took a step back. Immediately, a bodyguard stood in front of her and blocked the reporters for her. The bodyguards sent by Mu Yazhe were all top experts. They were well trained and did not care about the paparazzi at all. The bodyguards stood there with cold expressions. They were tall and strong, and their aura was shocking. Just their aura alone was enough to suppress the reporters. When the reporters saw this, they could not help but feel a little guilty and stopped in their tracks. What's going on? Why are the paparazzi running away? In the car, Gu Xing's assistant noticed that the reporters were suddenly rushing in one direction. Puzzled, he followed the direction they were heading and saw a group of reporters chasing after an elegant-looking woman with their cameras raised. The bodyguards kept chasing them away. The paparazzi did not dare to go too far and could only follow behind unwillingly. The bodyguards protected Yun Shishir and left quickly. The scene was orderly. Yun Shishir, the female lead of this movie. She's here too. But, what a grand display. The assistant was dumbfounded. Gu Xingze turned around and looked through the car window at Yun Shishir, who was in the middle of the crowd. His gaze deepened. The assistant patted him on the shoulder. Get out of the car now, Xingze. Thanks to Yun Shishir, the paparazzi were chasing after her. The assistant got out of the car. Coincidentally, a few bodyguards from the production team rushed over and chased the sightseeing fans out. The bodyguards protected Gu Xingze and rushed to the venue. Sister Bingqing, is that girl the Yun Shishir you were talking about? The newbie who talked back to you last time? After Yan Bingqing got out of the car, the assistant beside her pointed at Yun Shishir's back and asked with a displeased expression. The latter snorted coldly as a look of contempt appeared on her face. It's this B***TCH. She actually dared to embarrass me during the trial shoot. She even dared to talk back to me. She doesn't know her place. I heard that she landed on the set out of nowhere. Could it be that she was taken advantage of? Otherwise, with her standard, how could she have so many resources when she just debuted? One look and I can tell that she has a shady background. Yan Bingqing said viciously. If it weren't for her, the female lead would have been me. The assistant quickly agreed. That's right. Sister Bingqing, when the time comes to join the crew, show her who's boss. Don't think that you can steal the limelight just because you're the female lead. Humph, there's no need to rush. Yan Bingqing was still rational and waved her hand. Let's talk about this later and see how she performs. If she doesn't know her place and wants to fight with me, I don't mind teaching her a lesson. Sister Bingqing, you're an A-lister. She's not even an A-lister. Who knows if this movie will become famous after spending so many resources on her. Who knows, she might become the poison of the box office in the end. That would be interesting. Alright, the opening ceremony is about to start. The media is already here. Let's hurry over, Yan Bingqing instructed and the assistant immediately followed behind. At the venue of the opening ceremony, the entire crew of more than 100 people had been waiting for a long time. Chapter 537. The main cast and crew were all present. Yun Shishir was surprised to find that Jun Mo was also present. She immediately walked over and greeted her with a smile. Jun Mo, you're here too. Jun Mo smiled at her. Yes. Qin Zhou rushed me over to play a cameo role. What role? The name in the drama is Su Qi. Jun Mo thought for a moment and said, I worked overnight on the script, so I'm not very familiar with the character. I think I have a scene with your character. Su Qi is Yin Shachuan's first love in the drama. However, it's a male character. Yun Shishir suddenly broke out in cold sweat. She sized Jun Mo up. Indeed, in terms of appearance, Jun Mo was very tall and slender. She had neat short hair and a handsome face. She was well-dressed and was very suitable for the role of a beautiful young man. However, it was rare for a woman to dress up as a man. Jun Mo's expression did not change. I landed in the production team out of nowhere. Originally, this role had already been decided, but Qin Zhou snatched it from me in order to open up a career for me. At this point, Jun Mo could not help but feel a little guilty. This role was originally set for a new generation of young hunks, but she had snatched it out of nowhere. Moreover, she had even played a role. It was probably infuriating. Yun Shishir understood what she meant. Qin Zhou was hoping that she would develop into an actress. The Green Apple was a very good resource. Many new generation actors were racking their brains to get involved, even if it was just a supporting role with few scenes. Jun Mo might be able to attract countless fans with this role. Lin Fengtian's movie focused on youth and was very popular among young people. Young people were the largest consumer group in the movie market. Moreover, the character of Su Qi was very popular. It was no wonder that so many young hunks were lining up to get this role. In the original novel, this character's popularity was second only to Yin Dongyu's. Even Li Jiuxian did not manage to get this role because his facial features did not match the image in Lin Fengtian's mind. Handsome, gentle, devoted, and sunny, he fit the image of a prince charming in the hearts of many girls. In the script, he had many touching scenes with Yin Shachuan. Regardless of gender, Jun Mo was very suitable for this role. Jun Mo smiled and said, "I heard that there's a kissing scene between Yin Shachuan and Su Qi in the script. Shishir, you don't mind giving me your first screen kiss, do you?" Yun Shishir's face immediately turned red. She pursed her lips and smiled shyly. Jun Mo was touched by her pure smile and couldn't help but reach out to stroke her head. "Alright, I was just teasing you. Don't take it seriously." "Jun Mo, I realized that you're quite a boyfriend." Jun Mo was taken aback. Then, she smiled and said, "How about I be your boyfriend?" She leaned over and inched closer to her. Her expression was so gentle that one couldn't help but sink into it. Yun Shishir was in a daze as she stared at the woman's approaching face. Her heart started to beat wildly. Jun Mo looked at her reddening face with interest and couldn't help but chuckle. "Shishir, you're so cute. Don't tease me." Behind them, Qin Zhou walked over and glared at the two of them. "The opening ceremony is about to begin. Hurry up and stand in line." Chapter 538. The opening ceremony officially began. First, the director and executive producer went on stage to speak to the media. Following that, the representatives from the various departments of the production team went on stage to offer incense. Finally, as one of the two main leads, Yun Shishir, who was Gu Xingze, naturally had to go on stage to offer incense. Yun Shishir and Gu Xingze went on stage face to face and the media erupted in cheers. The appearance of the two main leads was undoubtedly the climax of the opening ceremony. Youth movies were very strict about the looks of the main leads. Yun Shishir and Gu Xingze were the epitome of reverse aging. One was 24 years old and the other was 28 years old. When they stood together, they were the perfect match for the male and female leads in the original novel. Yun Shishir had specially chosen a snow-white dress today, which accentuated her well-proportioned figure. Her luscious black hair cascaded down her shoulders like satin, and her porcelain-like face was pure and elegant. Gu Xingze wore a snow-white shirt and black slim pants. His simple outfit exuded a youthful aura. His delicate facial features were youthful and handsome. His skin was fair and clear, and his eyes were clear. Therefore, even though he was 28 years old, he did not feel out of place when he played Yin Dongyu from high school to university. When the two of them stood together, there was no need for post-production editing. Their good looks seemed to have established the foundation of the movie's box office. The media reporters standing below the stage were all amazed. Rumor had it that Lin Fengtian had a strict eye for talent. He was very precise about the positioning of actors and had a unique eye for choosing actors. At first, they were more or less doubtful about why Yun Shishir was chosen as the female lead. However, looking at the two of them on stage, they could only feel the beauty of youth and the kindness that time had shown them. It made them jealous. Lin Fengtian had chosen her for a reason. Whether it was in terms of looks or temperament, Yun Shishir was qualified for this role. Compared to the previous female lead candidates, Yan Bingqing, Yang Mi, and Yun Shishir, although they were about the same age, their looks were obvious. Yun Shishir and Gu Xingze looked at each other, then walked to the tribute table and lit up an incense stick. Gu Xingze lowered his head and lit the incense. The two of them bowed together. After offering incense, it was time for the two main actors to interview each other. Hello, Yun Shishir. I'm a reporter from Phoenix Media. Please talk about how you feel about playing the role of Yin Shechuan. Yun Shishir, who had received on-the-spot training, only needed a few seconds to come up with a draft. She smiled and said, "Thank you for your question. First of all, I am very happy to be able to work with such an excellent team." Director Lin Fengtian was a very responsible and dedicated director who pursued perfection in his film career. The atmosphere on the set of The Green Apple was very good. He felt very honored to be able to work with so many outstanding friends. I like the script of The Green Apple very much. I've read the original novel before. The character of Yin Shechuan is brimming with youthfulness and dares to love and hate. I will try my best to do my best. Finally, please advise me. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a round of applause. Hello, Gu Xingze. Can you also talk about how you feel about acting in this movie? Chapter 539. After a pause, he turned to look at Yun Shishir and slowly said, I'm also very happy to be able to work with Shishir. Shishir is the Yin Shechuan in my heart. She's a very talented newcomer and is full of spirit. I'm very happy to work with her, and I hope that the upcoming filming will go smoothly. Everyone, please look forward to The Green Apple. Thank you. A reporter immediately raised his hand and asked, Xingze, there are rumors that you were the one who recommended Yun Shishir to Director Lin. Can you verify if this rumor is true? There was a moment of silence. Everyone looked at each other. Yun Shishir was recommended to Lin Fengtian by Gu Xingze. Gu Xingze was silent for a while, then slowly nodded and said, yes. The media reporters below the stage immediately exploded. The situation was a little out of control. Originally, the reporters who were invited for an interview had already been arranged by the production team. Now that Gu Xingze's speech had caused the reporters to become restless, the questions they asked were getting more and more deviated from the main topic of the interview. Xingze, what's your relationship with Yun Shishir? Gu Xingze calmly replied, we're friends. Just ordinary friends. There are rumors that Yun Shishir is your first girlfriend. Is this true? Nonsense. Gu Xingze, what do you think of Yun Shishir, this newcomer actress? Although she's a newcomer, she's full of spirit and very talented. She'll be an excellent actress. Gu Xingze, at Huanyu's annual cocktail party, Yun Shishir was your female companion. May I ask if you invited her? I invited her to be my female companion. May I ask if she and you, seeing that the situation was getting out of control, Qin Zhou immediately sent people to escort Yun Shishir and Gu Xingze off the stage. The MC went on stage to make a closing speech, and the opening ceremony ended in a hurry. After getting off the stage, Yun Shishir looked a little upset. She was caught off guard by the media's fierce questions and didn't know how to respond several times. If it wasn't for Gu Xingze's strong ability to react on the spot, she might have said something wrong. Gu Xingze had been in the entertainment industry for 10 years, so he was experienced in reacting on the spot. He had long been used to such situations, so he was able to react fluently. But to her, it was inevitable that she was not used to it. Gu Xingze looked down at her flustered expression and asked softly, are you scared? A little. Yun Shishir was still in a state of shock. These media reporters should have interview scripts. How did the situation get completely out of control in the end? Gu Xingze patted her on the shoulder and comforted her. The media is like this. They are all pervasive and take advantage of every opportunity. Even if they have interview scripts, they won't follow the routine. Yes, thank you for just now. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know what to do. Yun Shishir thanked him sincerely. Gu Xingze only smiled. Qin Zhou rushed over. When he saw Yun Shishir, he scolded her. Why is your ability to react on the spot so bad? What happened to the skills you learned? Yun Shishir looked aggrieved. Chairman Qin, it's my first time. Qin Zhou was angry and ignored her explanation. You almost said something wrong a few times just now. You really scared me to death. If it wasn't for Xingze, you would definitely have been led into the gutter by those sly media reporters. Yun Shishir was scolded until she felt hopeless. Chapter 540. Even if you don't know how to respond, you have to smile, okay? You have to maintain the demeanor of a goddess at all times. What's with that confused face just now? Reporters always choose to publish articles with gimmicks when they take photos. You were so stunning at the cocktail party before, and now your ugly photos are taken by the reporters. Do you still want your goddess-like demeanor? Yun Shishir felt as if her soul was about to leave her body after listening to her vicious scolding. Gu Xingze frowned and said, Qin Zhou, be gentler. Okay, pack up. There's a photo with the main creator later. Remember, if someone wants to take your spot, don't give way, okay? You're the female lead, so you can just stand next to Xingze. Qin Zhou was a little worried that Yan Bingqing would take his spot. Yun Shishir nodded. After taking the photo with the main creators, the opening ceremony officially ended. In the blink of an eye, it was already evening. Let's have dinner together. Gu Xingze walked to Yun Shishir and asked. Yun Shishir licked her lips. She was a little hungry, so she nodded slightly. He asked again, what do you want to eat? What's good around here? Gu Xingze said, we'll go eat whatever you want to eat. Yun Shishir smiled playfully and said, let's go eat Western food then. Gu Xingze broke into a smile and readily agreed. Secret Love Western Restaurant was located in the busiest area of Huaihai Road. The decorations were elegant, and the Western food was exquisite, so it was very popular. If one didn't make a reservation, it would be difficult to get a seat. Moreover, it was mealtime now. Knowing that Yun Shishir wanted to eat Secret Love Western food, Gu Xingze sent someone to call and make a reservation in advance. Naturally, it was a matter of course. The restaurant manager even specially arranged an elegant booth for them. It had elegant lighting, glass windows, and beaded curtains. It was uniquely romantic. Therefore, when the waiter led them to the booth, Yun Shishir felt a little happy and excited. She sat on the seat contentedly, her little head turning around curiously, looking at the decorations of the booth. Gu Xingze sat down gracefully. As soon as he sat down, Yun Shishir looked up and flashed him a brilliant smile. She said happily, the atmosphere here is so romantic. It's a good place. Thank you, Xingze. Gu Xingze was slightly stunned. He suddenly realized that she was thanking him for bringing her to eat Western food. He could not help but frown. He had been sick of Western food since he was a child. To be honest, Western food made with love was delicious, but for his picky taste, it was still average. Originally, he had planned to take her to the French restaurant if she liked Western food. However, seeing how much she longed for this place, he gave up on the idea. Yun Shishir saw him frown and mistakenly thought that she had made him angry. When she thought of how she had called his name so directly, her cheeks turned red. She said softly. Senior Gu. Gu Xingze raised his eyebrows. Yun Shishir continued to explain, I don't think I should have called your name directly. Yes. What? Gu Xingze calmly picked up the menu on the side and handed it to her. He looked at her deeply and said lightly, you can call my name. His eyes were gentle for a moment, then returned to their usual calmness. He lowered his head and looked at the menu. Chapter 541. Xingzi. Xingzi. What a nice name. She recalled what Qin Zhou had said before. It seemed that very few people were qualified enough to call him by his name, but he allowed her to call him that. Did this mean that he treated her as a friend? Yun Shishir pursed her lips and smiled at the thought of this. Western dishes were all the same, but Western restaurant's most popular signature dish was the steak. The steak here was quite delicious and had a unique flavor. Gu Xingzi ordered some dishes of his own, some snacks, and a medium-rare filet mignon with black pepper. Yun Shishir, on the other hand, was at a loss. Looking at the dazzling array of menu, the mouth-watering steak, spaghetti, delicious snacks, exquisite desserts, and ice cream, she was really a little dazzled. She had never ordered Western food by herself and didn't have her own ideas. She really didn't know what to order. Looking at this and that, which were quite delicious, she was a little hesitant for a moment. Now that her stomach was big, she wanted to greedily order a portion of every dish, but she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to finish it and it would be too wasteful. Thus, she looked at Gu Xingzi for help. Gu Xingzi took a soft towel and was carefully wiping the cutlery, not noticing her gaze at all. Yun Shishir lowered her head a little dispiritedly and pouted in annoyance. She glanced at the menu carelessly, then looked up and said with a smile, "I'll just order the same as him." Although she didn't know what exactly he ordered, with his taste, the dishes he ordered should be delicious. She still trusted his foresight. The waiter nodded and asked respectfully, "Excuse me, is your filet mignon also medium rare with black pepper sauce?" Yun Shishir nodded. The waiter put away the menu and smiled as he left. Yun Shishir curled her lips in satisfaction and turned around to see Gu Xingzi wiping the cutlery for the second time. She didn't know why, but her eyes were deeply attracted to his fair and slender fingers. What a beautiful hand! It was even more beautiful than a woman's hand. His joints were distinct, his fingers were long, and he wore a beautiful pinky ring on his little finger. With such hands, even if they were holding a knife and fork, the image was so beautiful. She suddenly remembered that Qin Zhou had mentioned that he was a serious clean freak. She pursed her lips and imitated him. Taking a napkin from him, she started wiping the cutlery in a serious manner. "Hey! It's Xingzi." A sweet voice suddenly broke the silence. Yun Shishir looked up in confusion and saw a gorgeously dressed woman standing by the booth. She was in a long black dress and had exquisite makeup. Beside him was a woman who was also dressed up beautifully. She also looked very noble. The two of them had come to eat together, but they happened to pass by the booth. They didn't expect to meet Gu Xingzi here. After all, Gu Xingzi rarely dined at such a Western restaurant. Still, amidst her pleasant surprise, the woman shifted her gaze to Yun Shishir. She was secretly puzzled. Who was this lass sitting opposite him? She was dressed like a student and looked obedient. She didn't look like a lady from any family. She seemed to be a commoner. Was she a new actress? Chapter 542. However, even if she was very picky, she still felt that the girl in front of her was unbelievably beautiful. Her skin was fair, her eyes were bright, her lips were red, and her teeth were white. Even without makeup, she was mesmerizing. If such a lovely girl were to be thrown into her circle, many men would fight for her. Gu Xingzi nodded at her. Yun Shishir recognized one of the women at a glance. Although she didn't know her name, the last time she was dining with Mu Yaja, she had barged into the private room with a man. This woman was Yi Minglan. The female companion beside her was also the daughter of a wealthy family in the capital, Huang Na. Both of them were born with a silver spoon in their mouths. They frequented the upper class and were also socialites. Yi Minglan and Gu Xingzi weren't close, but they had met before. Their relationship was considered friendly, so she naturally sat beside Gu Xingzi. She called for the waiter and ordered some dishes. Yun Shishir felt a little awkward. Yi Minglan was very friendly, as if she didn't recognize her. She only felt that she looked very familiar. Although she didn't have a good impression of the girl beside Gu Xingze, she still smiled at her. She turned to Gu Xingze and asked, "Xingze, who is this? Why don't you introduce her to us?" "A friend of mine." Gu Xingze spoke calmly but didn't introduce her. On the surface, his attitude was as if she was just an insignificant person. In reality, it was to protect her. Yi Minglan smiled slightly. Although she couldn't figure out her identity, judging by Gu Xingze's attitude, she was probably just an ordinary friend. Although she didn't like her, she still stretched out her hand in a friendly manner and said, "Hello, I'm Yi Minglan. I'm also Xingze's friend. This is my good friend, Huang Na." Yun Shishir's lips curled into a stiff smile as she shook hands with her friend, feeling very uncomfortable inside. She had been a little shy since she was young, so she was a little afraid of strangers. Now that there were two strangers sitting in her seat, she naturally became a little reserved. Huang Na was a fan of Gu Xingze's, but she did not have much interaction with him. She would occasionally see him from afar at some business cocktail parties. Now that she was in close contact with him, she could tell that he was as handsome and elegant as the rumors made him out to be. At once, she had a 200% favorable impression of him and was very tempted. However, she was aware of her own limitations. A man like him could at most be seen from afar. If one really wanted to get close to him, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. If it wasn't for Yi Minglan, she probably wouldn't have been able to sit in this position. The dishes were served very quickly, and the waiter's attitude was also very respectful. The manager had specifically told him that the guests at this table must be treated with utmost care, and their orders must be prioritized. Yun Shishir was already very hungry, but when she saw the dishes on the table, she instantly lost her appetite. She faintly had some doubts about Gu Xingze's taste. Before this, she didn't know the meaning of how well done a steak was. She also didn't know what it meant. Before this, she also didn't know that creatures like snails could be used as delicacies. Chapter 543. How was she supposed to eat it? But the food had already been served. She couldn't possibly return it, right? That would make her a laughing stock. Thus, she gritted her teeth and looked like she was facing death calmly. She picked up her knife and fork and started cutting the steak. After all, it was still half raw. The cutlery used in Honey Love Western food was made of stainless steel, so it was a little heavy. In addition, she wasn't very good at using a knife and fork, so she couldn't cut it no matter how hard she tried. Yun Shishir frowned in annoyance and suddenly felt a little embarrassed. She raised her head to look at Gu Xingze again and saw him elegantly cutting the steak. Sensing her pleading gaze, he raised his head and saw her pursing her lips and staring at him as if she was silently hinting at something. Gu Xingze secretly laughed. This little fool just had to order the same meal as him. His taste had always been more unique, so how could she possibly get used to it? He quietly swapped his plate with hers. Yun Shishir was stunned. Looking at the steak in her hand that he had already cut, she picked up a piece with her fork and swallowed it with difficulty. She closed her eyes tightly and bit down. It was half raw and she couldn't bite through it. Yun Shishir's mouth pouted. She couldn't spit it out or swallow it. Her expression was really sullen. She was a little regretful. If she had known earlier, she would have ordered it herself. Yi Minglan's food was quickly served. They were all exquisite snacks that made Yun Shishir's heart skip a beat. Yi Minglan smiled and chatted with Gu Xingze as she ate. Yun Shishir really wanted to order something else, but she was too embarrassed to interrupt. Thus, she lowered her head and silently swallowed. She really swallowed without chewing. Gu Xingze wasn't very interested to begin with. When he turned his head and saw Yun Shishir's pained expression, he couldn't help but laugh. Thus, he slowly put down his knife and fork and asked, "Would you like to order something else?" Yun Shishir's eyes lit up and she nodded as if she had been granted amnesty. She couldn't stand such food anymore. After that, Gu Xingze ordered a bowl of spaghetti and some desserts for her. Yun Shishir did not have a big appetite. After eating so much food, her stomach was already bulging. Halfway through the meal, Yi Minglan suddenly thought of something. She turned around and asked, Xingze, today is my birthday. I wonder if you could give me some face and celebrate my birthday with me. Before Gu Xingze could answer, Yi Minglan quickly added, as if she was afraid that he would reject her, I'm planning to celebrate my birthday at a bar. Many of my friends will be there. Xingze, you won't refuse to give me face, right? She was indeed a socialite who frequented social cocktail parties. Naturally, she had some skills with her words. With such an appropriate excuse, even if Gu Xingze wanted to refuse, he had no reason to do so. He pondered for a moment and then nodded. When Yi Minglan saw that he had nodded, she was naturally elated. Gu Xingze looked at Yun Shishir and said, let's go. Okay. He stood up elegantly and led Yun Shishir away. Yi Minglan and Huang Na also planned to leave. They called the waiter to settle the bill, but they found out that the bill for this table had already been charged to Gu Xingze's credit card. Chapter 544. Huang Na was surprised. Oh my God. But I think she has a pure temperament. She seems to be Xingze's type. There was an interview with Gu Xingze in the past. The report said that he liked pure girls with waist-length hair and bright eyes. This woman just so happened to fit his ideal type perfectly. Why do you care who she is? Why do you think I asked Gu Xingze out tonight? It's to create an opportunity for you. Nana, don't let me down. Huang Na teased, don't you like Gu Xingze too? Yi Minglan smiled. Gu Xingze is a dragon among men, but I only admire him. I have someone in my heart. Who is it? Huang Na asked curiously. Mu Yazhe. Yi Minglan snorted. Young Master Mu. But wasn't he already engaged? Huang Na was shocked. She suddenly remembered the rumors from before. So what if he's engaged? Mu Wanru can't even give birth to a child. I don't see young Master Mu bringing her around all the time. It's just a marriage arranged by the family. Moreover, so what if he's married? Look at the heads of the Mu family. Which one of them didn't have a harem and a bunch of mistresses? Which lady in the capital doesn't admire him and want to climb up the social ladder wholeheartedly? Huang Na was surprised. Don't tell me you want to be his mistress. Yi Minglan smiled arrogantly and her lips curled into a disdainful smile. Mistress? Bah! If I want to be, I'll be the young mistress of the Mu family. Palace Bar was the most expensive bar in the capital. It was also the most high-end bar. It was the golden hour. The metal music was booming and the stage lights were crisscrossing. The atmosphere had reached its climax. This was the bar opened by the crown prince of the Ochen group in the capital. The people who came in and out of this bar were the rich and famous in the capital, or the popular celebrities. Of course, there were also famous directors and directors. Of course, Gu Xingze often came to this bar. He had a good relationship with some of the musicians here, so he often came to support them. However, he was not like the other young masters who liked to be lively. When he came here, he would often occupy a secluded booth, order a bottle of Hennessy, and enjoy the peace and quiet alone. There were plenty of second-generation rich and second-generation officials coming and going in and out of the imperial palace. Once night fell, the young masters and young ladies of the financial groups would gather here to pass the time. Instead of calling it a bar, it would be more appropriate to call it a bar hall of fame. At this moment, a popular rock singer was standing on the stage. His wild singing resounded as much as he wanted, and the strong rhythm of the music was carefree. In the VIP booth, a ding sound was heard as more than a dozen beer glasses collided with each other. Yeah. Cheers. A handsome man excitedly gulped down his drink. He had obviously drunk too much as his cheeks were flushed. A brown-haired beauty sitting next to him just took a sip and leaned on his shoulder. She waved her hands and said incoherently, I can't take it anymore. Hee hee, the crowd made a tacit hiss. It seemed to be a bit disappointing, but it seemed that they didn't intend to let her go. They still pulled her to drink. Chapter 545. The slightly drunk brown-haired beauty was the daughter of the Ye Yuan group. And the handsome man beside her was the big boss of this bar and the young master of the O Chen group, Su Liang. When Yun Shishir followed Gu Xingze into the bar, she was shocked by the deafening music and covered her ears. At this moment, the atmosphere was at its climax. She stared blankly at the people dancing to the music on the dance floor. Looking at their unrestrained appearance, she couldn't help but feel a little stunned. She rarely came to this kind of place. Although it wasn't as chaotic as she had imagined, she still couldn't get used to it. The crowd was crowded, the music was loud, and the voices were loud. Yun Shishir couldn't help but hold Gu Xingze's hand tightly in the crowded crowd. His hand was a little cold, but it gave her a great sense of security. Feeling her little hand, Gu Xingze lowered his head to look at the helpless person beside him. He got a message from her disgusted eyes. She couldn't get used to it. She didn't even like to come to bars. That's right, she looked like a quiet woman. She probably couldn't get used to this kind of place. Gu Xingze held her hand and raised his eyebrows. You don't like this place? Ah. What did you say? The bar was too noisy, so Yun Shishir couldn't hear clearly. She couldn't help but tiptoe to listen. Gu Xingze was tall and slender. Even when she stood on her tiptoes, she could only reach his shoulders. Yun Shishir was a little annoyed as she clung to his shoulders. Gu Xingze couldn't help but smile. He leaned over to her ear and said word by word, "You don't like it here?" His deep and magnetic voice was accompanied by his breath. Yun Shishir only felt that her neck was boiling hot, as if it was dyed with a ball of fire. It burned her cheeks and made them strangely red. She nodded unnaturally and said loudly, "I don't like it here." As she spoke, she opened her mouth wide, as if she was afraid that he couldn't hear her clearly. "If you don't like it, then leave." Gu Xingze grabbed her arm and turned to leave. Yun Shishir was stunned. She quickly tugged at his sleeve and smiled at her. "Don't you have an appointment with a friend? Don't worry about it. Just do what you need to do. I'll accompany you." "Stay with him," Gu Xingze raised his eyebrows. He was stunned for a moment, and the corners of his mouth curled up involuntarily. Out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a graceful figure walking through the crowd towards him. Yi Minglan had changed into a sexy black dress. Her wavy hair hung down in front of her chest. She seemed to have touched up her makeup, making her look even more exquisite and charming. She had a wild charm to her. "Master Mu, you're here. I've been waiting for you for a long time." Gu Xingze curled his lips slightly. Yi Minglan's gaze wandered and she glanced at Yun Shishir, who was beside him. She was wearing a pure white dress, revealing her slender and fair legs. She was dressed in the standard student attire, and her entire body was filled with a taboo beauty. In this day and age, many men liked such a style. Uniforms were seductive and pure. Yun Shishir had dressed up for the opening ceremony, so she looked youthful. Now, she was somewhat out of place in such an occasion. Yi Minglan suddenly felt that she looked familiar. She seemed to have seen her somewhere before, but she couldn't recall where. Chapter 546. Realizing that she was looking at her, Yun Shishir hid behind Gu Xingze uneasily. She scanned her surroundings timidly, her little hands clutching his sleeves tightly and her lips curled into an unnatural arc. Yi Minglan smiled at her and greeted her with a friendly smile. "Hello, do you still remember me? We met at the Western restaurant just now." Even though she didn't really like this girl, she was Gu Xingze's female companion after all. Naturally, she didn't dare to show her any attitude. Yun Shishir shook her head blankly. Yi Minglan was a little embarrassed, but then she smiled naturally. "It's okay, we'll be done soon. Come, Xingze, come with me. Everyone's here and we're just waiting for you." Gu Xingze nodded, lowered his head, and held Yun Shishir's hand. They followed the woman to the booth. Yi Minglan ran into the booth first and said excitedly, "Hee, I've invited a VIP today. Hurry up and give up your seat. Li Chengze, sit over there. Give up your seat." Li Chengze was a little unhappy. The seating arrangement was particular. It was Yi Minglan's birthday today, so naturally, she would be the one sitting first. However, the other seats were arranged according to the person's status. The seat he was sitting in was naturally a good one. However, Yi Minglan actually wanted him to give up his seat, so he couldn't help but be a little surprised. In the capital, he was considered a big shot. Yet, she wanted him to give up his seat for someone else. Li Chengze was a little unhappy. "Oh, who's the big shot that's coming? Who made great beauty Yi so excited that she's starting to chase people away?" Yi Minglan smiled sweetly, "You'll know when he's here." As soon as she finished speaking, Gu Xingze held Yun Shishi's hand and walked slowly into the booth. When his face was revealed under the dim light, everyone present could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Li Chengze choked on a mouthful of smoke and coughed repeatedly. In front of her, the handsome man was wearing a dark red shirt. His every movement was gentlemanly, and his bearing was extraordinary. His facial features were as exquisite as the work of the gods. He had sharp eyebrows and a pair of enchanting phoenix eyes. His eyelashes were long and thick, concealing the charming light in his eyes. If Gu Xingze was said to be an elegant gentleman in front of the camera, then he was unruly, calm, introverted, and cold and arrogant in front of the camera. When their gazes landed on the timid girl beside him, all the men present couldn't sit still any longer. Just how beautiful was this girl? They could not express it in words. Her hair was like refined clouds, her eyebrows were like willows, and she had a fair and clear oval-shaped face. Her willowy eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and her pair of almond-shaped eyes were bright and charming. She looked like a fairy from ancient times. However, at this moment, her dark red lips were tightly pursed, as if she was somewhat reserved. She was different from the other women who frequented the bars and wore sexy clothes. This young girl was wearing a student outfit that did not fit in with the atmosphere. She was so pure that it was as if water could be squeezed out of her. Even a bite would be sour. However, no man would be able to resist such a fatal temptation. Li Chengze, however, was stunned. For a moment, he was also a little surprised. Chapter 547. It was such a pity when he thought about how this pure and innocent woman was already taken. How great would it be if he had met her? But why was this woman with Gu Xingze now? Young Master Gu. This time, without Yi Minglan's urging, Li Chengze consciously gave up his seat. As a person who frequented high society and was a true aristocrat in the capital, he could naturally recognize Gu Xingze. It was because of his brother, Gu Jinglian. In the capital, even if they did not know the mayor, Gu Jinglian was a prominent figure and everyone knew who he was. There was no one in the Gu family in the capital who did not know Gu Jinglian. Li Chengze had interacted with Gu Jinglian before. Therefore, even if it was for Gu Jinglian's sake, he still had to give him some face. Therefore, he enthusiastically extended his hand. Gu Xingze expressionlessly glanced at him from the corner of his eye and also extended his hand. However, he only shook it briefly before retracting his hand. His cold attitude made Li Chengze feel a little awkward. He coldly reprimanded him in his heart, but his face still showed an extremely flattering smile. Gu Xingze held Yun Shishi's hand and sat down. Li Chengze selfishly sat next to Yun Shishi. He looked at such a delicate person sitting next to him. Her exposed snow-white arm unintentionally brushed past his elbow. Just this alone was enough to make him feel a little uneasy. She was such a beautiful woman, and a small unintentional action from her was enough to stir his heart to the point that he couldn't sit still. The woman sitting next to Li Chengze saw Gu Xingze and couldn't help but feel a little moved. She was not a socialite in this circle. She was just a young model who had made a name for herself in the entertainment industry. She had never attended any high society events. With her status, naturally, she had never had the chance to meet Gu Xingze in person. She only knew that Gu Xingze had debuted for 10 years and no one could shake his heavenly king status. But for a celebrity to be able to make Li Qingze give up his seat, she must have some background. Therefore, she quietly nudged Li Qingze's elbow and whispered, "Young Master Li, this Gu Xingze's background isn't simple." Yes. His brother is young Master Gu, a powerful figure. Master Gu? Which Master Gu? Li Qingze was fully focused on Yun Shishir and had no time to pay attention to her. He only glanced at her impatiently. How many young Master Gu are there in the capital? He's the young Master Gu I mentioned to you before, one of the 4 young masters of Beijing. I've only heard of the Gu family in Beijing. They have an incredible background. That's right. Who else in the capital could make Yi Minglan respectfully address him as young Master Gu? Of course it's Gu Jinglian from the Gu family. The other man beside Li Qingze turned pale with fright. Ah. He's Master Gu's younger brother. As she spoke, she lowered her voice again. I thought he was just a celebrity. Looks like he's really young. Is he in his early 20s? Yi Minglan was seated next to them and naturally overheard their soft conversation. She snorted arrogantly and said, "If it wasn't for my sake today, I reckon that you wouldn't even have the right to sit and drink with him." Li Qingze sighed but didn't refute her. In his heart, he acknowledged that Gu Jinglian was a powerful figure. Chapter 548. Li Qingze suddenly looked at Yun Shishir with interest. His eyes lit up as he muttered, "Minglan, what's the name of the girl sitting beside him? If you can get her for me." Yi Minglan rolled her eyes at him and snorted disdainfully. "Look at you. Why? Are you interested in her? Don't think of being an old cow who chases young grass. Can you help me think of a way to get this woman? When the time comes, I'll give you the limited edition Hermes bag that you've taken a fancy to." "Who cares?" Yi Minglan pushed him angrily. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. "Enough. Keep on dreaming. How dare you have designs on Xingze's partner? Are you tired of living?" Li Qingze's eyes were filled with excitement. He said softly, "Isn't it just a woman? Is there a woman in the capital that I, Li Qingze, can't handle? Hee, it seems like this girl is really sweet. Wasn't she with young Master Mu the last time?" "Most likely, young Master Mu played with her on a whim." Yi Minglan took a few more glances at Yun Shishir when Li Qingze mentioned her. She immediately recognized that this girl was the one who had dined with young Master Mu the last time. No wonder she found her familiar. She was upset when she thought of how she had chased them out the last time. However, on second thought, this woman was with Gu Xingze now. Perhaps young Master Mu was tired of her and wanted to use Gu Xingze to climb up the social ladder. Ha! She was quite pitiful when she thought about it. She felt much better when she thought about it this way. Forget it. She's Gu Xingze's female companion now, after all. I can't turn him down. Li Qingze furrowed his brows disapprovingly. Isn't it just a woman? Why? He's Gu Xingze. What kind of woman doesn't he have? What kind of woman can't wait to get close to him? There are so many women who want to climb into his bed. Why would he care about this one? Yi Minglan glanced at him coldly and muttered, I've never seen Xingzhe with a female companion, and I've never seen him dote on a woman so much. You haven't seen him at the Western restaurant just now. It was the first time I saw him cut a steak for a woman. It seems that Xingzhe has special feelings for this woman. At first, when she saw Yun Shishir, she thought that she was some rich young lady, but she couldn't remember who she was. In the upper-class society of the capital, she had interacted with all the rich and famous ladies, but she really did not have any impression of her. But from the looks of it now, she was probably just a newbie in the entertainment industry who was eager to climb up the social ladder. A young model. Actor. She was definitely not the daughter of a rich family. Li Qingze looked displeased. Yi Minglan added, I advise you to give up on this woman as soon as possible. When he heard this, he coldly snorted, but did not care. Women were all the same. Since she could climb into Mu Yaja's bed, and now she was beside Gu Xingze, why couldn't she climb into his bed? At most, he would wait until Gu Xingze got tired of her and kicked her away. It wouldn't be too late for him to make his move then. She was such a sweet stunner. Even if she was a leftover from Mu Yaja and Gu Xingze, he wouldn't mind. Chapter 549. Ever since Gu Xingze entered the booth, it was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over the originally lively atmosphere. Although they were about the same age as Gu Xingze, and some were even older than him, they were all playboys and rich young masters who loved to have fun. Originally, it was Yi Minglan's birthday and they came to the bar to make a scene. The atmosphere was originally quite good, but when Gu Xingze sat here, the atmosphere immediately became a little strange. This man was clearly in his 20s and looked young and handsome. However, his aura was mature and steady. His face was cold and his eyes were cold and emotionless. He did not smile and his whole body emitted a low and distant aura. Even the smile on Yi Minglan's face gradually froze. Li Qingze was still the smart one. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little cold, he naturally changed the topic to Yun Shishir. Ah, who's this female companion beside Xingze? She's so beautiful. When Yun Shishir heard someone mention her, she looked up awkwardly and glanced at Li Qingze. Her doe-like gaze made him a little impatient. If she was not Gu Xingze's female companion, he was really afraid that he would not be able to control himself and pull her into his arms and ruthlessly ravage her pink lips. Just as Li Qingze's voice fell, the others came to life and started praising her one by one. These praises came from the bottom of their hearts. It was undeniable that Yun Shishir was the type that could easily move a man's heart. Pure and lovely. As long as one was a man, who could resist her? Li Qingze smiled gently at her and kept his usual frivolous appearance. He asked gently, "My name is Li Qingze. You can just call me Qingze. May I know your name?" When Yun Shishir heard him ask for her name, she frowned slightly but hesitated and did not dare to speak. In her heart, she was extremely repulsed by this man's conversation. In fact, she did not even like this man. Perhaps it was because she felt that he was frivolous, which made her dislike him very much. Li Qingze's heart was a little itchy. This girl was really afraid of strangers. He wondered what she was like in bed. Was she loose? Or was she as sweet as her appearance? It was not that he had not played with innocent girls before, but most of them were pretentious and vain. Unfortunately, Yun Shishir was so natural and pure. Seeing that she did not answer, his voice became gentler. "Don't be shy. I don't mean anything else." Hearing him say this, he did not seem to have any ill intentions. Yun Shishir bit her lips and said plainly, "My name is Yun Shishir." Her voice was soft, gentle, and pleasant to the ears like a clear spring, pleasing to the ear and light. Li Qingze smiled, revealing his white teeth. His eyes were filled with intimacy. "Ha, what a nice name. Can you be my friend?" Gu Xingze glanced at Li Qingze from the corner of his eyes. His lips curled up slightly as he suddenly raised his chin. Without waiting for Yun Shishir's response, he lazily stretched out his arm and domineeringly wrapped it around her shoulders, pulling her to his side. Everyone present immediately understood in their hearts, and they couldn't help but withdraw their thoughts. This action was an invisible warning and declaration to prevent others from trying to take a share of her. He was protecting her. Chapter 550. In their eyes, Gu Xingze was too arrogant. Coupled with his prominent status, he looked cold and aloof, making him unapproachable. Moreover, they were not on the same level as Gu Xingze. One was the sky, while the other was the earth. Thus, Gu Xingze and Yun Shishir gradually formed a barrier in the booth. The others chatted and laughed. A few of the rich boys hugged their female partners and played finger-guessing games. Gu Xingze did not like noisy atmospheres to begin with and found them boring. Yun Shishir sat at the side and looked at the people around her. She suddenly felt that she was in a different world from this group of people. Yi Minglan squeezed Yun Shishir to Li Qingze's side and sat next to Gu Xingze. She was obviously creating an opportunity for Li Qingze. Yi Minglan poured a glass of Hennessy for Gu Xingze and glanced at Yun Shishir with disdain from the corner of her eyes. Yun Shishir turned her face inadvertently and sensed the hostility in Yi Minglan's eyes. She could not help but be stunned. She was sitting here doing nothing. Why did this woman's eyes look so sharp? Yun Shishir felt uncomfortable. However, Yi Minglan regained her bright smile in the blink of an eye. It was as if the coldness in her eyes was just an illusion. Yun Shishir could not sit still. She could not wait to end it and be free. She turned her head and looked at Gu Xingze. She saw him pick up the glass and drink the Hennessy in one gulp under Yi Minglan's pestering. He looked a little annoyed. She thought to herself that he must be bored too. Xingze, today is my birthday. Do you have a gift for me? Yi Minglan suddenly hooked her arm around Gu Xingze's arm. She seemed a little drunk after drinking a few glasses of wine. She leaned her head on his shoulder and acted coquettishly. It was too rushed, so I didn't prepare anything. Gu Xingze smiled and said. As soon as he finished speaking, a few people at the side started to jeer loudly. Drink as punishment. Drink as punishment. Drink as punishment. Since you didn't prepare a gift, you should at least drink a glass of wine as punishment. It's Sister Minglan's birthday tonight. Young Master Gu, you forgot to prepare a present. Yi Minglan immediately gestured for them to stop. She turned to look at Gu Xingze and stammered, of course we have to drink as punishment. But you should at least give me a gift, right? At this moment, the singing on the stage stopped abruptly. At the end of the song, the band gave their thanks and left the stage. Encore! Encore! The audience below the stage was in high spirits, and they all asked for a return performance. Yi Minglan suddenly smiled coquettishly and said to Gu Xingze, Xingze, didn't you release a new EP recently? Can you make an exception and play a song for me tonight? As soon as he finished speaking, Li Xingze immediately whistled. Wow! Xingze, please perform a song. Gu Xingze turned to look deeply at Yun Shishir. The latter was slightly taken aback, but her lips curled into a smile and her eyes signaled him not to bother about her. Gu Xingze retracted his gaze and glanced at Yi Minglan. He then raised his glass of Hennessy and drank it in one gulp. As the crowd cheered, he stood up and said to Yi Minglan, okay, I'll sing a song for you. Wow! That's great! Sister Minglan is indeed impressive. Gu Xingze walked up the stage, and a band immediately went up to play for him. He turned around and briefly communicated with a few musicians. Then, he sat on a chair and held the microphone. Chapter 551. He turned around and exchanged a few words with the musicians. Then, he sat down on the chair and held the microphone. His handsome face was exposed on the stage, and the people under the stage made a burst of excited discussion. Gu Xingze. Oh my God! Why is Heavenly King Gu here? I'm so excited. This is the first time I've seen Gu Xingze in person. He looks so good. On the stage, Gu Xingze suddenly looked up. His gaze seemed to penetrate the crowd and landed on someone in the booth. His lips curved into a charming smile, and his eyes were full of affection. Oh my God! Look, Gu Xingze is looking at me. Yi Minglan saw Gu Xingze looking at her. She stood up excitedly and spoke with pride and contentment. Soon, someone echoed, that's right. Heavenly King Gu is looking at Sister Minglan. Heavenly King Gu doesn't like Sister Minglan, does he? Look at Heavenly King Gu's eyes. Oh my God, they're so affectionate. If he looks at me like that, my heart will melt. Amidst the noise, Yun Shishir looked at Gu Xingze on the stage. However, he seemed to be looking at her too. His eyes were gentle and affectionate as they looked at each other across the air. Her heart was in a mess. She pursed her lips and lowered her head. Seeing her reaction, Gu Xingze smiled and snapped his fingers. The prelude of a rhythmic drum beat and the guitar played softly. You're obviously angry, but you're still smiling. The audience suddenly quieted down after the first sentence. A languid yet extremely magnetic low and mellow voice resounded through the entire venue through the microphone. The enchanting and dreamy male bass voice was so emotional that it made one's heart go numb uncontrollably. This song was written and composed by Gu Xingze. He even arranged the music himself and included it in the EP. The EP had not even been officially released yet. Therefore, very few people had heard this song before. In addition, Gu Xingze's singing was intoxicating. The noise in the venue stopped abruptly as they listened attentively. The crowd is crowded, the weather is gloomy, I don't mind holding your hand looking out the window at the street with a clear sky, write your smile in my diary over and over again. Study hard because of you. The world is so beautiful. Gu Xingze held the microphone and closed his eyes affectionately. When he reached the climax of the song, the dazzling rainbow sound was so enchanting that it was intoxicating. Wild cheers erupted from the audience. Gu Xingze sang a love song. The bright and refreshing tune, coupled with his clear and magnetic voice, simply couldn't be more suitable. The lyrics described a pair of lovers who were passionately in love. No matter when or where, they wanted to see each other. Every minute and every second of separation passed by slowly, and it was very torturous. But when they met again, it was as if the gloomy and rainy weather had become sunny. The entire audience quieted down as they were intoxicated by the beautiful and enchanting voice. Why do I like you? The passing of youth, I am still here. I won't leave you. When Gu Xingze reached the emotional part of the song, he gently closed his eyes. His flawless face was illuminated by the stage lights and was incomparably handsome. The audience close to the stage could even see his slightly trembling thick eyelashes, as well as his slightly furrowed brows. It made the young girl's heart unable to find a place to express her feelings. Coupled with the song, his stage performance was full of tension and captivating. Chapter 552. The sunlight has become warm because of you, how I want to become the warm wind surrounding you, white chocolate sweet words of love, deep breaths, I only owe you a sentence of, I love you, the hour hand goes round and round. The moonlight outside the window still refuses to leave, time is too slow, I'm not used to it without you, actually, I miss you, oh, actually, I miss you. The lyrics were warm, and many people were moved to tears. Gu Xingze looks so affectionate when he's singing. My heart is going to be drunk from his singing. He's my idol. I've been chasing him for 10 years. Xingze. Xingze, I love you. Yun Shishir was in a trance listening to the song when a hand suddenly touched her arm and rubbed it. This extremely ambiguous action shocked Yun Shishir. She retracted her hand and looked up abruptly, only to see Li Qingze gesturing for her to keep quiet. He lowered his voice and said, Shu. You. What are you doing? Yun Shishir stared at him in shock. She was disgusted by his invasive behavior. She lowered her head, and her hands were helplessly intertwined together. She pursed her red lips, looking like she was avoiding him. Li Qingze looked at the beautiful creature beside him, and his heart was naturally itching. I scared you. I just saw that you were in a trance. No matter how I called you, you didn't respond. How could he let go of such a good opportunity to get close to her? He immediately leaned over and said with a smile, Good girl, don't mind it. I just wanted you to drink with me. Yun Shishir looked up and frowned. She saw that Li Qingze didn't hide the desire in his eyes as he stared straight at her face. She lowered her eyes unnaturally. Her lips were even redder after being ravaged by her pearly white teeth, and they were filled with a forbidden temptation. His gaze was almost transfixed. He secretly gritted his teeth. Such a girl had to be Gu Xingze's woman. It was too difficult to get his hands on her. If it were someone else, he would definitely use all means to snatch her away and protect her well to prevent others from peeking at her. Judging from Gu Xingze's behavior just now, he seemed to be interested in this woman as well. Although she was still Gu Xingze's woman now, that might not be the case in the future. It looked like he was just playing with it on a whim. Once he got tired of it, he would probably just throw it away, right? Since that was the case, she would be abandoned by him sooner or later. It would be better to leave a good impression in front of her so that he could snatch her away in the future and make her completely his. Now, he could only endure it. At most, he would have a taste of her beauty. Although his heart missed her, he couldn't be too presumptuous. He didn't want to offend that man for a woman. Yun Shusher didn't know what he was thinking. Li Qing's gentleness towards her didn't seem to have any other intentions, which made her originally bad impression of him change a little. She felt that this man wasn't as bad as her first impression. He seemed to be quite friendly to her. She smiled, revealing 2 cute little dimples. I don't drink. That smile was like a pure lily. Li Qingze was stunned again, and his heart itched even more. The others saw that this was a rare opportunity. Now that Gu Xingze wasn't around, they all started to get restless. Chapter 553. Seeing Li Qingze like this, the others could only secretly feel pity. After all, the Li family was considered a powerful family in the capital, so they were still a little afraid of Li Qingze. Naturally, they couldn't fight with him over something good. Li Qingze turned around and saw her sitting there in a daze without moving, so he poured a glass of wine for her and pushed it in front of her. He smiled and said, "How can you not drink when you're at a bar?" Yun Shusher looked at the wine glass and shook her head. I really can't drink. Not to mention drinking, even on normal days, she wouldn't touch a drop of alcohol. Her alcohol tolerance was very poor, and it wasn't as if she hadn't learned her lesson. The last time at Huanyu's cocktail party, she drank a few mouthfuls of wine half-heartedly and was completely drunk after 1 glass. Li Qingze pretended to be disappointed and sighed. Shusher, are you not giving me face? Yun Shusher still expressed her reluctance to the wine and declined his offer. Li Qingze didn't know that she really couldn't drink well. Instead, he thought that she was deliberately not giving him face in front of so many people. The crowd roared with laughter. This is the first time I've seen Qingze suffer in front of a woman. This woman obviously isn't giving you face. Li Qingze was infuriated. Under the influence of the people around him, he grabbed her shoulders and pulled her into his arms, not allowing her to resist. He fiercely pressed the wine glass against her lips. Drink. Otherwise, you're not giving me face. I really can't drink. She insisted again. This man was obviously going to force her to drink. Yun Shusher's face was filled with disgust. As she struggled violently, the wine glass fell to the ground and shattered. The scene was silent for a moment. Everyone looked at each other. Li Qingze saw that she had such a big reaction and his face was a little embarrassed. He was a little angry. Is there a need to have such a big reaction? Yun Shusher was a little angry in her heart. She pursed her lips and didn't want to bother with him. Her indifference made him a little agitated. Li Qingze saw that her eyebrows were knitted tightly and her face seemed to be filled with disgust. He was also a little unhappy in his heart. This woman clearly didn't know what was good for her. He had only touched her slightly, but she had avoided him like a snake or scorpion. It was as if his touch was poisonous. Why? Could other men touch her? Why didn't she resist when Gu Xingze hugged her shoulders? Why couldn't he just have a drink with her? When everyone saw this, they roared with laughter. Now that Gu Xingze was not present, they began to speak without restraint. So Qingze has taken a fancy to this woman? No, this is Heavenly King Gu's female companion, Qingze. First come, first served. Besides, this woman doesn't seem to be very tactful. Yun Shusher raised her head in embarrassment. Looking at these unrestrained faces, her heart trembled slightly. When Gu Xingze was still around, they were still polite to her. Now that Gu Xingze had only left for a short while, they were already speaking so presumptuously. Could this be their true colors? Yun Shusher looked embarrassed and explained, Xingze and I are just friends. Your name is Yun Shusher, right? Li Qingze grabbed her arm with a sinister and ferocious expression on his face. How much does it cost to sleep with you for a night? I like to have a price tag. It's just money. I can have as much as I want. Name a price. Chapter 554. Ha! What do you mean by that look? Li Qingze sneered. You should be able to tell that I want to sleep with you. You're still pretending to be pure. That's no fun. What do you want? Status? You want to hook up with Mu Yaja and Gu Xingze because you covet their resources. If you follow me, I'll set up an opera troupe for you and make you famous. How about that? Yun Shishir was stung by his mocking and humiliating words, and her face turned ghastly pale in an instant. She looked around and saw the faces gradually distorting in the smoke. At this moment, the most unrestrained side of human nature was laid bare before her. Wow! It's the first time I've seen Qingze so impatient. It's actually because of a woman. Someone laughed and jeered. Beside him, a woman stuck close to Li Qingze and said softly, Young Master Li, today is Sister Minglan's birthday. It's rare for us to get together. Don't ruin your mood because of a woman. As she spoke, she handed over the wine glass with a coquettish smile and gave Yun Shishir an ambiguous glare. Her words had a deeper meaning. Some women, born as commoners, have ulterior motives. Naturally, they wholeheartedly want to climb up the social ladder. Young Master Li, why do you have to bother with such a woman? Li Qingze narrowed his eyes and took the wine offered by the woman. He shook his wrist and took a sip. However, he didn't say anything. He only looked at Yun Shishir with ambition in his eyes. Yun Shishir suddenly stood up, pushed the crowd aside, and left the booth without saying a word. The crowd teased, she's angry. She looks cute when she's angry. Young Master Li, is there a problem with your charm? This kind of woman can't be dealt with like what you did just now. Do you need me to teach you some heart sutras? Get lost. Li Qingze was unhappy and took a big gulp of wine. When Gu Xingze walked off the stage, the applause was thunderous and the cheers lasted for a long time. When he returned to the booth, he looked around but didn't see Yun Shishir. He was stunned. Where is he? Everyone looked at each other. Li Qingze turned his face away in annoyance. Yi Minglan looked around and laughed dryly. He probably went to the washroom. I'll go look for her. Yi Minglan immediately came up and pretended to be unhappy. I already said that she went to the toilet. What's wrong? Do you think we bullied her? Xingze, it's not that I want to nag at you, but you're here to celebrate my birthday. You're embarrassing me like this. Face? Gu Xingze looked slightly displeased. Haven't I given you enough face?